West, y'all.
Older brother. Yeah, one of his older brothers.
Yeah, he's actually the best uncle, so.
But his old man is the closest reflection to a living proof of a facial, like, you know, like his characteristics, the hair, the face, the laugh. It's like, that's my old man. Yeah. It's almost like, yeah, without being selfish, it's hard to go over and see him because, like, you know, he reminds me of my dad too much. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
You know? Because, like, I know I got to jump back in the car and drive back home. Like, thinking, what am I doing? That's my dad.
Yeah.
You know? That's why I parked that there. Like that.
Well, because I have fond memories of them two. Always, when it's like a family function, it's always, when them two are together, they're the loudest one laughing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the worst because then there's...
It's just two guys just laughing.
Yeah,
Right?
and then all the kids are just laughing because they're laughing at stupid stuff. And then the kids were like, they're supposed to be leading example, but here they are on the side, drinking, laughing, doing silly things, laughing at the old woman doing their stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, it's just them two mocking everyone at any event. I'm just like, man.
But that reminds me of my childhood, you know, with all my uncles and aunties, you know. Like, you know, we're at the age now when we're like their age when we were kids, right? So we're doing different things now, like we're not doing because back then our parents when we were young, they're doing heaps of family stuff, heaps of family.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Like going to the beach or going to each other's houses to have barbecue and.
It's always a thing. It's always an event.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember Saturdays was a day where my parents would take us out to go get something nice to eat, but actually go out, get a food, go sit at a park or go to the beach and eat. Now it's just like...
Everyone's too busy, eh?
It's every 2 or 3 years, if it's
you're
not a
lucky
funeral.
there's bread in the cupboard.
You know, or even worse, like funeral or wedding. Eh?
Yeah, that's the only thing we catch up. I don't know. Really, I guess.
But those days, it seems like it was like every week to me. When I think about it, it probably wasn't, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
Like you know, playing with your cousins, you know, running around, and you know the oldies just all together having a chat, and you know, like for me, I remember like when I was a kid, like I never knew what the oldies were doing. We'd just go and just play with the other kids, you know, just run around and stuff. But I can't imagine me, at my age now. For my kids and my sister's kids, like doing what my parents did and my uncles and aunties did back then. Like I think I don't know because I don't know maybe we're too busy now. Or it's different.
I don't know. Just life right now. Life today as it is really different compared to growing up because I don't know. It just seems like life was a lot more simple. Now that ever since technology came in, it just ruins everything. Because I think we all could say that we went from no social media, no technology, from the transition to getting that brick cell phone to now being like, well, it's literally everything now, you know. And then now that our I don't have kids, my niece and my nephews like literally live on their devices, and I'm like, no, now's your age. I was literally, can I go outside and play with the kids? No, go outside. Didn't hear what 6 o'clock. It's your name. I gotta go now. My mom's calling me.
Well, that's it, eh? Social media or even internet, played a big part in the change. So,
Yeah.
like we don't have to. We just text people now. We don't have to go to see them. We just do a video call or Zoom or whatever.
And it was actually because we had, I think, and especially in households, it was always a landline. So that was the form of communication.
Which one are you talking about? The ding 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 or the?
Oh, says a lot about your age. It was the dial-up.
The dial-up. I remember when we first got rid of our dial-up because we got the push button one. Man, I thought we were rich, Like,
Yeah,
damn, this is like the latest thing. Like, we're in the future.
And it's funny because if he had just said to the technician when he came, do you have any old? Because sometimes the technician would come from a Balangi house and they just upgraded their dial one day. Do you have any spare one? Because this one plays up sometimes. And then you think they're just going to replace the hand, but the bit that you put together, and they come with a new thing, but it's not even new. Oh, yo, have that.
See, that's another thing that's changed too. Like, I remember back in the days when I was a kid, like, you always, if something broke down in your house, like your TV or your washing machine, you always rang someone to come and fix it, especially the TV. Like, our TV broke down a few times, and like, we had one of these box TVs, big massive box.
My favorite one every time growing up was Alo Gilisiku. Yeah, go change the channel, come back, sit down. Yeah, Kilalo,
Yeah.
yeah, Kile Siku. And I'm like, Sola, just sat down.
You were walking the life size remote.
And then my favorite one is like when it's like, cause you sing, shh, hey, shh, Almoy, go sleep now. And then you're just like, why are you still watching it for if I'm not allowed to watch it?
You always just get close your eyes.
And it's always that.
Not the close your eyes.
The no remote days, eh?
Wait, the name remote.
See, kids don't even understand, eh? Kids these days don't even understand.
You come inside and get, yeah, go turn on the TV. And I'm like, you could have turned it on before you sat down. But you couldn't say that. It's like, okay, turn it on.
Our big box TV, it took ages to warm up. So when you press the button, it takes like 5 minutes to come on.
That was our kitchen TV.
Man.
The struggle,
I
eh?
think that the thing those TVs had, if it was a big one, is the solid speaker, eh?
Yeah.
I had a fixation for speakers, man. I was like,
Oh, yeah?
man, it's got a mean speaker, like a little 8-inch speaker at the front, like, and it's bass shit. Oh, turn it up. Oh, that's loud, man.
Did you have a phase when you were like taking apart speakers and
Yeah, bro. I went for that phase. Any inorganic, any rubbish, man, that was me. I was the kid looking for speakers, eh? Just connected up to my old radio in the garage.
man, those days, eh? So, so other than that, like you've got your own clothing label, huh?
Oh, yes.
And you've been
Before you answer that, Docs, so we went over to what's it called? My nan's funeral in Samoa. That was how many years ago was that? That was years ago, eh?
Yes, yeah.
And I remember the conversation coming up about, well, what are you going to do when you leave school? Because all her sisters, all educated men, like smart, like on his family, like they set the bar for like, you know, like
rest of the
school
family.
C, school C, like bursary, like, you know. So it was like, man.
so were your parents
every
like
time we did Christmas,
gave them an
eh?
example?
Yeah, well, because it was like, it's not fair, man. Number one, I was like, wait. Look, was like literally like, you know, she was like a couple of years older, but she was doing like, like getting A bursaries, like.
Because from memory of my sister, when she was at university, she was studying full time and she had 3 jobs. So she was working at Pick and Save, at the time was called Foodtown, and also working at LSE Rose Course while studying full time.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Being compared to that. Whoa. And I'm complaining about school C English. But that's what I mean. Like, so when we went on that trip, and I remember like hearing, because I knew all of that, because we always heard about it at Christmas. Oh, this is what this cousin got for school, for the end of year results. But I remember like the question came out like, oh, what do you want to do when you leave school? And that's why I was like, but this guy's gonna come on. Cause you know what? The first time ever, and I was like, must have been 23, 22. But he was still at school, and someone asked the question, maybe one of my aunties, and you know what he said? He said, I want to be an archaeologist. Fuck, I was gobsmacked. Because in my head, I was like, what the fuck is that? I had no idea what an archaeologist was. And then he explained it. I was like,
Were you an Indiana Jones fan? Did you like Indiana Jones?
Nah.
Because that's the only reason why I know that word archaeologist. Because I'm a big Indiana Jones fan when I was a kid.
well, someone did say that, like, oh, you know, like Indiana Jones? And I was like, do you want to be Indiana Jones? But then, nah, what did you do it? But then, like you said, like, into the clothing now.
Well, that's interesting you say that because I think if I had time, I would want to be an archaeologist.
Yeah.
How come? What?
I think it's just the fascination of history.
Yeah.
There's always, like, for example, we can all say that there's this and that, but there's many stuff that we still don't know about. Look at our cultures. Like, we've only got history from when when the white man taught us Christianity. That's when history starts. But I was like, no, we have way more before that. Way more before that. But that's lost because just as how it's written.
So because I'm into history too.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So was that like something you discovered at school when you were coming up? Like one of the subjects you took and you just were into it?
I have no idea. It was just, I think it was playing in the sandpit.
Oh yeah, sandpit.
I found gold.
It's like,
It's a stone.
It's like, I don't know. It just was just the fascination of history. And then now that I'm a clothing designer, I guess, how do I say it? So that's what I was thinking as a kid. But now that I'm older, I think what has the path that was written for me was this. Because ever since going on this path, everything just makes sense. Everything lights up. There was no struggle. There's no stresses. Everything's just happening the way it's meant to be. That's meant to be. Because I'm not trying to force anything. Which
Right.
I don't know, just always find it interesting. Because I would sit back and be like, well, imagine if I was doing a 9 to 5, would I be happy or anything like that? But yeah, but I'm like, I'm happy. Like, this is what's happening in my thought process right now. If I could die tomorrow, I would be happy.
Right.
Because I've done what I've done, and I've like ticked all the boxes that I need to tick. And I was like, yeah, if I could go, then all good.
Oh, share a bit of that journey. Like, where did it all start?
Because it sounds to me like you're just going with the flow, and then whatever came your way, you're into it anyway, and you just went with it.
Yeah, well, so a couple of years back, I went and I decided to do some therapy, and I went through that process. It's interesting. So the one thing that I learned first and foremost was by understanding unpacking. And unpacking is the most difficult thing that you can actually learn in terms of who you are as a person and what you go through. Because when you unpack stuff, you're understanding where the origins come from. So obviously understanding all my traumas, I understood where it come from. So now I can literally say that I'm walking around life with no baggage. Because we all have baggage. And the issue that we, especially as islanders, we don't get to sit down and open their luggage and go through it. But because I don't know why, but that's just how it is. So I took therapy, and that's what I learned. And then after going through that journey, I knew the one thing I started to pick up and notice was that a lot of guys were there was a lot of self-confidence issues there. Don't get me wrong, I had my journey of self-confidence issues too. But then now that I'm where I am right now, I'm like, the only thing I'm self-conscious about is that my eczema on my skin. But other than that, like, I'm all good, you know. But then when I was like, oh, yeah, well, I've always wanted to do fashion, always had it as a kid. Till now, it's just like trying to connect the dots. So it was like, maybe I could do something with men and fashion and stuff like that. But then I'm getting confused with my conversation right now.
No, you're good.
But that's where I am to answer your questions.
No, I guess it's always that question on, especially for kids these days when they don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
When they're older, and how do we tap into what their passion would be, or how would they find out? How would they discover that? Because there's a lot of kids that finish high school and they still don't know what they want to do, and they jump into course, or they jump into going overseas, or having a break and coming back, and I don't know. Maybe it's having that break after high school and coming and finding yourself and knowing what you want to do, then come back and study. But a lot of times, some people maybe finish school and don't go higher education and just go to work, because you have you're talking about your sister, how she had to work all these jobs, because that's another issue with our people, because it's that trying to maintain our families in terms of paying the bills and all that. It's really hard when we have to study as well, when we know that going through all of this at the end of the tunnel is going to be a better, it will be a better lifestyle, will be a better thing. But in the meantime, we still got to take care of our families, and that's the hard part. And I think a lot of our people fall over in that during that process when they have to give up because they have to feed the family and help the family. I don't know, but I think what you're talking about in terms of your journey, as far as your journey goes, is like you've actually had to go back and try to figure out.
Yeah, well, so the one thing I didn't understand was that when you do business, your mental health reflects on your business. They sit right beside each other. So if you're mentally iffed, then your business will be mentally iffed. So I knew that's the one thing I knew was that I need to get that checked before I went into business. So when I got that sorted, I was like, okay, but because the reason for that is because when you understand business, when you study business, it's different when you do it. And then the one thing is that because when you learn to unpack, you need to realize that emotions are different from logic sense. Because when you go into a meeting and you're upset about anything, you can't go into a meeting upset. because that's not, you won't get a logic answer and you won't get a successful business. But if you go into the meeting upset with emotion stuff like that, trust me, you won't sort any issue out, because you'll be like, oh, back to square one again. So the point of is actually get your mental self sorted first. Then the best thing is if you can get rid of all your all your issues and your trauma and stuff like that, when you start business, it'll be easy, because you're looking at it from a logic sense. Because you go, okay, that's $2, and then this is $3, but the $2 is cheaper, but the $3 looks prettier. So which one would you get? Obviously, the $3 is prettier because it's triggering on your emotion, but logically, $2 is better because business-wise, you save $1. Just things like that.
So do you think that's the reason why some of us fall over when it comes to business, when we get too emotional and stuff? Because I think what you're talking about is being a professional in the corporate world, rather, because nothing is personal in there.
No.
When it comes to business, there's nothing personal.
No. And the one thing that because when I was understanding about Pacific Island brands and stuff like that, when you look at back in the days, Pacific fashion has a huge scale going up, but then they fall off the map straight down, disappear, nothing. And my question was, why did that happen? And then when you look at all the histories and stuff like that, greed, money, self-sabotage, because that's all to do with emotion. And it's interesting because the incline is really steep, means they go up real quickly. When the one thing that I learned was, like, look at these fashion houses like Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, their incline was slower because they weren't trying to rush things. So that's my goal with this brand, is that I'm trying to be successful to the point where hopefully one day my great nieces or my great nephews will run the brand and have it a family business. Do you know what I mean? But being able to have like a legit real fashion house here in New Zealand, of course it'd be amazing if I could achieve that. And a fashion house being like, you know, how everything is made in that particular house by those people who work there. But at the stage right now, we're still working on it. You know, that's the goal. But that's just what I've understood so far.
Because it's a long game, eh? It's the long game.
It's the long game.
And a lot of people don't understand that. They just want the quick fix sometimes.
Yeah. I think the most interesting thing I learned was easy come, easy go. That saying, that's really, because if you look at everything, even with like easy money, of course it's easy money, but what happens to easy money? It easy goes. So the whole point is, like, how do you make that consistent over a range where, like, I don't know, like, look at these people who are making like $5,000 every week because that's what they decided to put on the long run, versus, it's 200 this week and then 200 next week. It's like, no, like, I don't know, I'm just trying to encourage everyone around me, think bigger. And if think bigger means a longer stretch, then what's wrong with not trying to reach that longer stretch? Like, what's stopping you?
Yeah, it's still the grind, eh? But it's the grind that if you're passionate about, it won't be.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So why do you want to go fast track stuff? You know, take things slow and make sure things are cross the T's, dot the I's. You know,
because it's just, once everything falls down, then what? What are you supposed to do? Look at your thumbs. Look at your toes.
I like how you said take care of your mental first before you step into that arena, because that corporate world is a beast thing, and I think that corporate world being a beast, we don't understand what kind of beast it is, because, you know, it's sort of like the pen's money than the swords kind of thing, and we're all used to the sword. We're not used to the pen.
Yeah, and it's funny because when we grow up as a kid, I don't know about you guys, but our parents don't, especially Polynesian families, they don't teach us the understanding of your emotions. Do you know what I mean? I love my dad, but my dad was always angry. And then so when I was like, oh, you know, angry at this, angry at that, angry at this. For me, that became the normality. But I was like, growing up now, when I went through the whole process of trying to figure out myself, I was like, that does not come from me. And it's just like learning to say, I understand my problems, but they're not my problems. They're my parents' problems. But because it's just easy just to pass it on down, we receive it. So, and I'm doing it now with my sister. I'm telling her, you know, you understand the reflections of what our parents have done, have now reflected onto us. So now our history, we're just replaying what they've done, but in a different age or century, whatever like that. Yeah. So it's just trying to tell my family, like, understand what's going on and then figure out what we can fix to make it better for the next generation. And the one thing I strongly say to my sisters is that communicate with your kids and understand their side as well, because kids these days, man, their mouths on them. I'm just like, if I say those things when I was your age, won't be speaking for a month. Even lucky if I could even breathe. But I don't know. It's just it just feel like, especially with undergoing the communication is really key. That evolves with business and normal life too. Like, if you can't communicate your feelings or the way how you want to say something, then something's not right.
That's 100 docs.
Yeah.
That is the most undervalued tool that anybody has.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's talking.
Yeah.
It's just it's just communication. I mean, if someone can communicate their point across without getting their sword out and start waving at everyone and just listen to what the message is or what the point I'm trying to get across is,
Yeah.
but Islanders would be in a better space,
Absolutely.
Anywhere in the world.
Because if you can really remember growing up in high school, there's always that one kid that's always aggressively angry. And then you're just like, calm down. And he's like, in class like that, especially in English class. But then deep down, it's like, if the teacher was to communicate with him and ask him, like, calmly and figure out what was going on, then you'll be able to communicate his feelings about what's actually going on. And who knows, maybe the trauma might have started from home. So, I don't know, it's many things. I'm not saying it all starts from home, but like you yourself as a person, that's where it starts from. And the true understanding is understanding the growth of where do you go from there. Because I'm now at the stage now where I'm understanding that first of all, religion is not you and you are not your culture. Because people, I've noticed now that, I know this might be a heavy topic, but people have a tendency to use church as a perspective of, it will solve everything, but really it doesn't. Like, if you're feeling angry, go church. If you're feeling upset, go church. If you need money, go church. If you want to lose weight, go church.
I think you're not the only one to say that. There's a lot of people coming out saying that kind of stuff now. You hear it now on social media, especially. Yeah. And even on other podcasts, you listen to people talk about,
if I could go church and lose weight, Jesus Christ, I'll be there. Yeah. But it doesn't work like that. But I think that's just, it's those kids have grown up heavily with the whole church side, which is nothing wrong, but it's just like, that's only one aspect of life. Do you know what I mean? We are more than just what we are when you see someone. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, when I see this guy, people are like, is he a Palangi? What is he? It's like, no, he's just a Fair Islander. But then there are people like, are you Cook Island? Because I know there's some white Cook Islands. But it's just how how our mindset is. We just always judge people by his book because it's easier that way. But that's what I say in communication. You communicate like, gee, what are you? And that's always, I love when I got one nephew, no shame, comes up and goes, who are you? Who are you related to? Or where are you from? And then the adults are like, and I was like, no, but that's how you're gonna learn. That's how you figure out these
if you
things.
don't ask, you don't know.
Yeah. So all these other kids are twiddling their thumbs. I'm like, who's that guy or who's that lady? One kid's like content. He's like, I know who that is. He's so and so, and I'm like, oh, I see.
So at the moment, your clothing business, where are you at now? Where is it now in terms of your, like, what we've been talking about with you're playing the long game?
Yes.
And you've got goals, obviously, and you've just touched on where you want to be in next 5 years, huh? Just 5 years, is it? Not long, eh? Not long. But where are you now with your business?
I'm in second year in business. I'll be 3 at the end of this year, but. Second year business, my first year was basically to get the name out there. So it was constantly meeting people and talking to people. Then second year was interesting because the pandemic hit. So I was trying to work around that. But I personally think I did really. So I'm like burping on the mic. So I think, so my second year in business, I think I did really well. I had a fashion show, Pacific Fusion, and then I did so well that Australia noticed me. So I went to Pacific Runway, and then found out that that was their last ever show. So I helped close that era of their fashion show, and then I'm not gonna say because we're not going there, but I actually got invited to Paris Fashion Week,
Wow.
but I didn't want to go because I'm like, the overheads to Sydney was difficult. Getting to Sydney was difficult. So imagine somewhere further away.
Mm.
So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna risk it. So I'm in my third year in business. So my goal this year is to how do I produce things on my own sustainably?
Right. Yeah.
Because the goal is to try make this longevity. And then on top of that, I was to the point where I started to be a bit more serious. I said to my team member, I go, I need to sit down and actually load out the analytics of the brand. So people are saying, she looked at me and she's like, what's that? And I go, I want to understand what we have done so far and what we can do to improve. So basically trying to understand the blueprint of what I have created so far, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So understand that, and then, okay, what can I do? Then replicate that every year, but not replicate to the sense of, okay, I want to do this. This needs to be adjusted. This has to be moved around, so forth, so forth. It has to be, I don't know, just trying to figure that sense because.
But do you want it right across the board, or do you want it with certain bits of garments, like
No,
it's the top half or the bottom?
right across the board. So from social media to people who we connect with, like, cause I've I have this whole document typed up, just how serious I am about it's even right down to how we post, when we post, what platforms goes, so which week, so the first week, second week, and also how you post on those different platforms. From there to understanding the content days, and also what that involves, and then going from there to other things. Because I eventually would love to produce my own fashion show. So that's the goal. That's the goal for this year. Anyone who wants to sponsor,
Doable, dogs. Doable.
please. But that's my goal for this year, was to try achieve my own fashion show. It's difficult because I'm like, damn. There are other designers out there who are receiving more love because their stuff is culturally referenced and used a lot more. I don't, because my stuff that I do, I'm being brutally honest, it's not your typical fashion. I don't do the typical platushes and, feathers and stuff like that. Anything that's intriguing to the eye, that's referencing a culture. I'm like, so I have to backtrack a bit. So when I was at university, the one thing I always found interesting was the fact that because I'm brown work, I'm expected to make brown work, and I'm like, but I don't want to do that. I got nothing wrong with my culture, but my culture's not me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me being brown is enough. That's more than enough. But when I got to my last year at university, they were saying, you have to think about. They were telling us what are we going to do after? So what's your transition after university? And a lot of them goes, have you thought about making island prints?
So what's the difference? They're actively trying to get you to go that direction.
Yeah. If you want to sew, do you want to think of, I mean, even because I wanted to learn more about sewing, when you go to a sewing course, they're like, there's a lot of ladies who do politatis. And I'm like, oh, it's a good side job, which I get it. They're trying to make you learn and get an income without being, getting a 9 to 5. But my point is, like, no, I'm not. That's not me. Even my references of what I like and what I draw from are different from your typical cultural designer, because they'll be like, oh, I'm inspired by Samoa or Tonga or the Cook Islands or Fiji and stuff like that. But I'm like, no, my reference come like Japanese anime or K-pop. So those are the two references that I strongly, heavily based my stuff on. Just because that's what I grew up in, that's what I love. Realizing that it's huge, um, a huge strength of difference in this industry because everyone's doing the island stuff, which is nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm just like, nah, that's not me. I'm that person that's doing the out of it stuff. I'm like,
To me, it looks futuristic.
yeah,
But then, because it's plus size, it's just a matter of like people actually opening their eyes to it. Like, it's like, man, there's something Pacifica done by Pacifica, and it's here. You know what I mean?
but that's it. Doesn't really say that because when I went to Australia loves my shit.
Yeah, yeah.
They're in love with it.
Mm.
They're like, "Gee, you from Sydney?" I'm like, "That's right, man.
Yeah, mate.
I'm from a place where we make real food. What's this piece of one chip? What is this?" Man, when I was in Australia, I was craving island food. I don't know why. Came here and I'm like, island food, yuck.
But would you consider the move if
Nah.
you were to do?
Nah, because I feel like trying to compete in Australia, it's like trying to compete in America. It's massive there. So
But they love your stuff.
But it's like, but what for though? Do you know what I mean? I love being the underdog here, and I love being the underdog when I go over there.
It's the drive you, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I was like, I know it'd be cool to be able to create something and be able to have a real strong business on this side of the world. I'm like, if you want me, you can pay me to come over there, and I'll be there.
You know, you saying you love fashion, your business is about fashion, but the stuff you're into is might not be cultural. You know, you're into, you say K-pop and all that kind of stuff, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. You being a Pacific Islander, going into these different spaces, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, and your story reminds me of Mikkel Mulipula, because he's a comic book artist, but he doesn't draw anything Pacific.
Yes.
And he got pushback from Creative New Zealand for not funding them because of that. Because of that very reason why he's not drawing Pacifica stuff.
Well, because that's the thing. Because when I ask for funding, they always ask, "What's the cultural perspective of your?" I'm like, oh, "It's a no from you."
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, so where's this empowerment thing? They talk about Pacifica empowerment, but we got only empowered if we do our own stuff. I mean, to me, I mean, it's not right. I think if we are survivors but doing other stuff, like, so we are not included in the in that space in the you know.
No, that's true. Because so there's another fashion label called Layplan. These are two Pacific Island women, but they didn't do anything Pacifica. Do you know what I mean? They have Pacifica models, and they themselves say, "Oh, we're Pacifica enough," you know. But their stuff that they do is beautiful. Very streamlined, simple, strong, feminine pieces. But when you look at their stuff, you think like, oh, you really think that there's somebody else that's making these clothes. But then when you see like, you know, these two beautiful statuesque Samoan woman and a Tongan woman making these beautiful garments, you're like, oh, they're islanders. But this just proves that, you know, I guess it's trying to push people out of their comfort zone. Us Polynesian people, we love our comfort zone because it's easy, it's safe. It's what they will say. Like, I guess it's like it's affecting no one. It's not harming anyone. But I'm like, but then where's the growth in that though?
Because your comfort zone is not in that space. Your comfort zone is where what you're doing.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to push myself out of my comfort zone. This year, amongst all of this, my personal goal is to how do I expand my creative references. Because the one thing I always encourage people, if you want to study, go university. People are like say, oh, well, what's wrong with university? You know, what's wrong with going to just learning how to do your just sewing course? I'm like, anyone can do that, but when you understand fashion reference is a core thing. So, for example, there's a difference between a person who's like, I want to make a great dress, versus someone who went to university and they're like, I was inspired by the Catholic Rome churches, by the drapes of the angels, so I use that as a reference point. Can you see the difference? One will be a basic grey dress, and the other one will be like, ooh, looks like somebody famous could wear that, you know. And I strongly say, you know, it's the intellectual level of things that if you want to be serious about something, you have to look at it at that perspective. and always trying to challenge yourself, get out of the comfort zone. So that makes sense.
No, yeah, hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Isn't it?
These guys look lost.
Nah,
I know.
it makes sense. It makes sense to me.
But what are your thoughts on all that? On the pushback against
Yeah, the
people
pushbacks-
doing other stuff, like
Yeah.
what we're passionate about?
The pushbacking for funny and stuff is sort of bullshit. But like, yeah, honestly, the comfort thing, with people, the comfort thing with Pacifica people. But I think that's because we're not, like, for example, like, I always refer to this story, like, when they packed us from the islands, they said foreman would be as high as you go.
Yeah.
They never taught us how to become business owners
Yeah.
because our family was just safe and content, just being workers, full-time, steady income. That
Yeah.
was good enough for them. That's for them.
Mm.
We're the next wave of people. So what's stopping us?
Hmm.
Even though we're not getting funding, whatever, but we're still going forward, right? We're still moving forward. As people and as individuals, like, trying to do better and see it bigger. Like, your long run is sort of like, man, I'm not in it just for the next few years. I'm in it for the long term.
Yeah.
And that's enough to drive it for itself, man. Like, just hearing the stories, like, man, that's powerful because people need to see, like, shit, the world end tomorrow. You've already started.
Mm.
Hey, that was the main thing. Like,
Yeah.
if One's done it, what's stopping everyone else from doing it?
Mm.
It's like, yeah, he said, like, that safety thing is where people get comfortable because they feel like, oh man, if it falls over, at least I can go land on this.
Mm. Well, because it's interesting because there's always before I started, I was in that process of like, so I keep getting that they keep asking me to join the fashion show, and I keep going, oh no, next year. Then I say to myself, how many next years until I do it? And I said, stuff it, I'm gonna go for it. So then I went for it, and then look where I am right now.
Yeah.
You know, but it's that leap of faith where you trust yourself to get out of that comfort zone. You don't know what will come out of it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to know when
Yeah.
you take that leap,
Yeah.
especially stepping out of your comfort zone. It's like you don't know what's on the other side,
Just have to go.
but until you step out, you will know.
yeah.
Hey, and then when you're on the other side, then you realize when you're looking back at it, this is why reflection is a massive thing that people don't do enough.
Yeah.
There you go. I was on the other side. It's the same. When I could have just been on the other side, growing even more.
Yeah. Because if I look back now, if I started ages ago, I think I'd probably be in a different league than I. But at the same time, my mental game back then was not strong as it is now. Because I don't know, I'm just more a happy person.
I've seen it. That's why I was happy to connect with you on Sunday. Because it's like, man, from the kind of times you were coming out to get haircuts, and we were catching up. But I was like, bro, you're second year deep.
Yeah.
What does it say? Like, it's like, it goes, because I remember you talking about the checker show. That was the last time we were probably talking about it.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh yeah, I want to do winter jackets. You know, I'm up to this. So when your actual label launched, I was like, fuck, well, he's done it. So now I was just watching it, you know,
Yeah.
watching it. But bro, just to hear your drive, that's fucking solid, man.
I had to sit down because before I started, I had to sit down and talk with my mom. My mom looked at me. She's like, "You're not happy," and I'm like, "Of course I'm not happy. Of course you can see that I'm not happy." And she goes, "Why?" Because I don't want to go to this 9-to-5 job where good pay and I could possibly move out quickly and then have my own space. And she's like, "Why?" And it's because it's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I studied for up to this point. Did all these interns and everything. And she goes to me, "I give you 1 year. 1 year, you live at home for free, nothing, no care, no nothing. If you can't do anything within a year, say goodbye to that dream and go back and get a 9-to-5 job."
So
was that a little bit of motivation?
Screw motivation.
But sometimes that's what you need, eh? You just need someone to just give you the it's a green light. You can go.
Because the whole process writing to make my first collection, I was distraught. I was like, oh my gosh, Then that's when I seeked help. I was like, I went through counseling. I went through the whole process because I kid you not, many days when I was crying because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared. I'm nervous. But I was to the point where in my life where my sisters grew up and left me by myself with my parents. But it became really difficult because I grew up when I was growing up. At that time, a lot of my friends had their siblings to rely on. I didn't have my siblings to rely on. Them calling, oh, do you think my brother would give me $30? They bring out brother, can I have $30? Send 100. Call my sister, oh, do you think she send 40? But they only asked for 20. But when I asked my sisters, can I have some money? No. I never got any of that. So I had to deal with that. That was a trauma itself because I was like, my siblings, I needed you when you guys weren't there, but you guys all left, had kids. And I was just by myself, me, mum and dad. But I couldn't rely on them because I was like, I think at that time, mum and dad were still strong. So they were just like, are you stupid? And then, so, I don't know, just trying to figure things out myself. And then now it's just like going after dealing with everything. I'm just a happy person, and I'm glad that I went through that struggle because now I'm just like, and I'm always checking you on. I'm like,
I'll give you props because to be able to unpack it, that's a start. But to even identify that, hey, I need to sort something out before I actually jump both feet. Because bro, it's so foreign to us, man. I believe it or not, it's so foreign to many Pacifica people, and I come across all sorts of walks of life when they come to the shop, and I think to myself, man, like, do you actually stop to reflect? Because if you don't, you just see yourself in the same position, eh? Like, oh, I'm still there. Like, oh yeah, he's still. And the first thing you get, oh, he's still, and that question shouldn't be, are you still this? Yeah, it should be, oh, how's things?
Yeah,
I think that's a different perspective, but that's a more of a shucks. That's been that same shit, different day. Yarn comes from,
Because I can imagine. You know how you said things are clearer, and things are so simple now. Man, I can imagine that. And then you think back, because I would like to think that if I went through that as well, the whole process, and then looking back, saying, man, I can't believe that baggage I had. Because everything moving forward, it's just so simple. That's what I can concentrate on. Like, it just things are so clear, and there's a straight line now.
Because I think the most interesting that I learned was once you get rid of your baggage, the only thing you need in life is a book and a pen, because you need to write. That's what you need to not only reflect but also take notes down of ideas that you have in your head. Because if you truly become one with who you are as a person, then you start noticing things, and you realize, for example, like, oh, maybe, say cup holders were a thing, and you're like, oh, imagine if we had cup holders, But that's just coming from a logic sense of understanding that you're not carrying your baggage around. It's just you and your pen and paper, and you're noticing these little things around you, and you're picking it up, and you're like, oh, what if this and that? What if this and this? Because that's just where your mindset is right now.
I've read about writing down the past, and then
that helps.
Writing down, like, if you have some trauma in the past, there, like, you sit down and just write about it, about what happened. Because when you look at what you're writing and you think about it, it's sort of like it's something outside now, and so you can just screw up the paper, throw it away, and it's gone. Because you already read it down.
That's acknowledging it, eh? Yeah, that's acknowledging it. Yeah, I've done it as well. Like, I've heard when I've spoken to counselors, it's like if you can write about what you're feeling in that moment, and you can put it like on your phone, store it, give yourself a bit of time, and then go back and read it like after a month. Yeah. It'll take you back to that time when you were going through it and what you felt at that time. But when you're reading it, actually look up and then look around and then be like, man, like they say that it will pass. So whatever you were feeling back then, even in that moment, was just temporary, but it's gone now. Yeah. Because move past it, Yeah. Well, and that's your growth from when it was.
Growth, because I think the cool thing is that I'm always trying to check myself to not get a big ego. That's the one thing I take pride in. Because there's been many, like, if I'm just around on my working spaces, I'm like laughing to myself because I'm like, who do you think you are? But because I was like, because I can do that because I'm by myself. You know what I mean? But like I refuse to be that person that's constantly like, the ego is being filled and the head is getting bigger, and I'm like, oh, no.
I think when you're around family and we catch up, you can flex because what was it? I'm my own boss, thank you. Because I love that, because I love it. Because our family sense of humor is my Leah, you know what I mean? Especially like when he said to Walter, I own the business, thank you. I own my own label, thank you. Like,
the one thing I always dread going to see family was like, oh, you want to swim me off? I'm like,
But you know what it is, guys?
it's called buy from the collection.
It's like a proud acknowledgement without saying, fuck, I'm proud of you, cuz.
Yeah.
Hey, but that's just our island humor. Hey, that's like me giving the prayer, they being mocked. Because I'm not, you know, if you politely say, oh, no, I'm not drinking, and then they get mocked. Hey, it was like, how do you get mocked for saying, oh, I'm alright, I don't want to drink, you know? It's Sunday today. Shucks.
It's amazing to me. 2 years and you've already got acknowledgement from Paris and, you know, let alone people in Sydney, you know, and
Well, it's come to the point where now that from what I understood is that people are now, young models are wanting to model for me, and young designers are looking up to me. So when I was like, because I don't know, I just find it weird because I'm just like, it's funny because there are a lot of people in my industry that I've met. I wouldn't say that I really know really well, but I've met them. And the one thing that I took at the end of last year was that everything became really cliquey.
I mean clicky.
Like it's a group there, it's a group there,
Oh,
there.
yeah.
But then I'm
Mean Girls.
no, basically that.
Yeah.
But because ever since growing up, I never belonged to a group. I was always an outsider. I was always been an outcast. I've always been considered weird. But I'm like, no goods. You guys are all lame. You guys are boring. But and now it's like the one thing I noticed that each of those mean girl circles, I'm friends with one of them, and then they would come to me, and then they would bitch about someone from their circle,
yeah.
and then I was just like, who do you think you are? And I just,
You're Mr. Confidant.
and I hated it, and now I'm just like, what are we in this world? Like what I'm doing right now is just really, I don't know, just understanding that perspective just really hurt me because I was like, it's just unnecessary energy that I don't really want to waste. So I'm like, wow. So, and it's just funny because people who are so forth in their cliques, them like, oh, you know, they're the Regina George of their group. They act like they've made it. I'm like, sorry, I haven't even made it. What makes you think you've made it? And then it's just like, I don't know, but people are like, they're like, oh no, but you're pretty. You're pretty, you know, well known. You know, I'm just like,
But at least you know, because like when we spoke earlier, like you know that you need to elevate your circle to get to the direction you want to go in and the direction you want to take. But sometimes you got to do it, eh?
yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're talking with the same people and they're talking about the same shit, it's just a different day. Like, bro, that's why reflection is such a powerful thing. Because, like, if you can go, nah, man, we want to be here. Like, and we should give ourselves, like, Auntie gave you that year.
Yeah.
Like, but that's what you need, eh? It's like,
Yeah.
bro, we need to set milestones to hit. And if we're not being, like, if we're not driven or doing the right things to get us there, then we need to reflect and ask ourselves, why aren't we getting there, eh? Because your long game, man, that's what's going to help you. It's going to hinder or help. And if you don't look back over it and say, like, look, this is what I want to be doing right across with all your connections and stuff, Facebook or internet or whatever platforms, you need to do it, eh?
Internet.
But I mean, you need to, like, sort of look back on it and go, man, if I want to up my game, how am I going to do it?
Well, because I look at my niece and my nephews. Like, I say to them, you know, you can do whatever you want. You just have to put your mind into
Beautiful,
it.
man. I love
Do you know
that.
what I mean? Because it's all of them. Like, they look at me and I'm like, oh, you know, don't be in a hurry to get in a relationship. Don't be in a hurry to have a baby or get married. These are the things that my mother had pushed into my head strongly as a kid. But it's just like, it's the truth though. Do you know what I mean? Don't be hurried to try grow up because for what? Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm always encouraging, especially my niece and nephews, like, it's okay to fall in love and it's okay to get heartbreak because that's what helps you grow as a person. You understand what could have happened, what would have happened, but at the end of the day, just simply move on, and then you know, learn those new skills. But yeah, I'm just always encouraging that to everyone around me. You know,
That's nice. I love that, docs. I love that 100%. Because what I've learned from, like, in the last 3 podcasts that I've set with Kim is, like, taking something out that I thought, like, from my point of view was like, nah, you know what? It should be looked at like this. But you just saying that, like, you know, you can be whatever you want to be. Yeah. It's powerful for me and to hear that from you because it's like me having an expectation and just me telling my kids, like, man, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be proud of you unconditionally,
Mm.
but whatever you're doing, make sure it makes you happy.
Yeah.
Because your happiness means more to me than
Yeah.
seeing you upset, you know?
Yeah.
But like, just hearing you can be whatever you want to be. Like, man, we need to do that, eh?
Yeah.
Like, we need each other because the sky's the limit in what you want to
Yeah.
do. And like, if you can just plant that seed in any kid, eh?
Mm.
But that's such a powerful thing, man.
I also think that you can be what you want to be. That statement, especially for other people, like it's a thing where it literally means you can be anything you want to be. Don't be, because we as Pacific we good at sports, we're good at music, the things that we're really good at.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean just go for those things. Like you can actually be an astronaut or be, something like anything. Like we're not limited into these things society puts us in because we're good at. There's gonna be outliers, and if you're good at something else, go for it.
Yeah.
Like don't follow. If you want to do something, you can actually do anything.
Yeah. I don't know. Don't put a lid on your source of growth. Really, your potential. Like leave it wide open for you just to grow from that. I think it's just trying to also make sure that the reality is it is difficult if you want to achieve that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but or unless you come from a wealthy family, then it's a different story. But if you're not, then you just have to gun for it.
Yeah.
You have to go for it.
But I think where you're at, it is hard. It's a journey, but you love it.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun to do something that you love.
It's constant, endless, sleepless nights. Going sleep at 4 a.m, waking up at 9, continuing my day, then doing it. It's repetitive. I try and make sure. It's funny because I have in total probably four or five real friends who check up on me and go, "Did you have a break?" And I'm like, "Girl, what is a break?" And they're like, "You need a break," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm all good." But they're constantly like, make sure you need a rest, and I'm just like, yeah. But for me, it's like, no, I'll break till I can't break no more.
How are you finding that with your friends? Those one or two friends that do check up on you, because when I think about some of these rich people that own these big companies, like. It seems like they just don't care about. They just work, and they don't need anything. They just work. But
well, I don't know if you guys seen. There's I remember there was this meme going around a couple of years ago where it's like your uni life, where it's like if you wanna party but have good grades, you don't have sleep. But if you want good grades, you have a party life and you can sleep. But if you want to have a party life, you can you will have you have no. What's it? If you want to have a party life, if you got no party life, you've got sleep, you've got good grades. But if you want good grades, so you have to, vice versa. You get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like a triangle. You either have, and that's just my perspective now, is that you either have a love life or something that you love, and friendship. Family, it gets taken out of the picture because family will always be there.
Yeah, unconditionally. But
so
that's so bloody right, man.
So but you can't have all three. It's two out of the three. See, for me, it's like I got no love life, which I don't care. But I've got two friends. I've got good friends, and then I've got my career. That's what I chose. But it's so funny because my friends know me so well that they never once. Are you gonna pay half? Are you gonna pay for this? They're just like, no, I got it. And I'm like, no, I got some. Are you sure? And I'm like, are you sure? You stay at a restaurant. Are you sure you can afford it? And I'm like, no. Next minute swipe, I'm like, I was gonna pay. And then they would fill up my card because they understand my reality and they're here for the journey. But I always tell everyone, I was like, you make sure you need real friends. These friends, and they know you so well. Where they're one of my friends, she's so cool that she's like, I fill up your car, and I'm like, okay, all good. Fills it up full, no questions asked, and I'm like, oh, and I said 20 will do. I'm not asking for a lot, but 20 can get us from A to B to C to D. I will make it stretch that far. But no, it's just, I don't know. I just always encourage people to try, just like, but at the same time, it's like, you need to learn that skill to figure out who was real and who's not. It's a skill that you just don't learn. Like I just grew up and I know, I understand. It's one of the things. But I think that comes with a sense of like logic. You know, when someone's who's talking a lot of BS versus someone who's like just there before the clout or just trying to, like, oh, you know, I'm John's friend because he's a designer.
But you know where the Dogonian love comes from?
Mm.
That comes from your heart, dogs.
Mm.
Because I believe, like, you know, you're good by others and people see your heart through all the bullshit and all the fame. They know you.
Yeah.
And they would know that you would do the same.
Yeah.
And that's where that friendship and knowing who your close circle is, eh? Because no matter what, bro, you can always lean on them, or they can lean on you.
Yeah.
And when you're playing your long game, they're the ones that want to come enjoy the ride with you.
Yeah.
You know, the highs, the lows. Like, bro, that's such a, like, known thing if you know it, you know? You know who your day ones are.
Yeah, because I think, well, a couple of years back, I had a lot of friends, but I noticed that John at that time was trying to do things to satisfy what they want from me. And then I was like, oh, for what reason though? Do you know what I mean? Then when I went through the whole experience, I'm like, now it's a different story. I'm like, if you can be real with me, I can be real with you. As that's a receipt for me to you. And then just understanding, like, yeah, there's a lot of people out there who use and abuse.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. It's what's easy.
Take your kindness for a weakness, eh?
Yeah. That's just, I guess that's where life is right now.
So when it comes to like your business, who are some of the fashion designers that you look up to, that you've taken inspiration from?
Oh, there's heaps. I think the most interesting one was probably Alexander McQueen. The stuff that he did was out of it. His I think one of his collection at his final year at university was based on Jack the Ripper.
Oh,
yeah, do you see how out of it that is? And then
I'd wear that every day, actually.
and he had all and I think he had some of the models actually walk out like as if they were the victim of what had happened. But I'm just like, when you hear stuff like that, it's like, but it's like, it's, you know, it's interesting, makes you think. And then John Galliano, besides his little racist rant, he's a creative, and unlike anyone in terms of haute couture and stuff like that. But I think those are the designers that in minimal that I love. But as I grew older and getting into this, I try not pinpoint a lot. I try not reference fashion a lot, just because I notice is that monkey see, monkey do.
Yep.
So and you hear him like, oh, that skirt looks nice. And then what am I doing? Making the same skirt in a different color. So it's just always trying to like, understanding the history is good, but not trying to reference it a lot. Because you'll be like a copper where then this word they're like, oh, it's beautiful. But then you have someone who's detail oriented, like, oh, that looks like that. This is so and so based on so and so. Like,
have you come across people like that? Because you know, like media do that with like sports people and stuff. Like, refer, and then they do the background check and follow you up. Like, you know, have you ever had that? Any of your?
So I have a friend who's like that. We started fashion together. She's onto it, but she says that to me. A lot of designers that are here in New Zealand, like, sorry, the stuff that you say is just not the one. She just laughs. But I'm just like, saying that it's not common in the fashion industry here in New Zealand. You're either a white designer or a Polynesian designer.
And is that just how the New Zealand fashion world is in New Zealand?
Yeah.
And is that reflective on the type of shows that come out? So either cultural shows or white shows.
And then it's funny because it's like, especially look at Pacific Fusion, like they had really good designers, but it's like a mixture. There's like Polynesian designers, and then there's like the one odd designer who doesn't fit. But then even the white industry was like,
Okay, this is rhetorical, but I like, make believe. But do you believe if you were like, say, fairer, like almost like Balangi, do you reckon that would be different if you were still in the industry now? And said your name was John?
Yeah, if I was white, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
Because it's funny because the way I look,
Yeah.
they're like, the way I talk is when they're like, okay. And then when they see what's been produced, they straight away, I'm like, oh, okay, wow, this is guys. So there's a story. So this story hasn't been released yet. Nobody knows, but I was like, might as well tell here. So I was actually supposed to showcase when I was part of Pacific Fusion last year. They had a alignment with New Zealand Fashion Week. So they had to pick one garment to be showcased at New Zealand Fashion Week. Now this is a huge thing because unless you know someone in the industry, not that much brown people can get their foot in there. So it was a huge thing. But my main request was I will join the show if you give me one model, and that one model is Assassination. Now he models for me quite a lot, but he walks female. He's really strong as a female walker. And I go, that's my only request, because New Zealand Fashion Week want a particular look. You have to, if you're gonna be male, you have to be male. And if you're gonna be female, you have to be a certain sort of size, certain shape for them to approve that you can work for New Zealand Fashion Week. This model that I wanted, far from it. He fits right in between. He's more lean on a male side. That's good for male work, but he's too short. And then on top of that, he was walking female, so he's already no.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, give me that model. If you want me in that show, give me that model. So when I said, so the team actually had to go away and they had to have a meeting about it. And then I was like, he's got the goods, and he can dominate the runway. Just let him walk. But they had to go away and have a meeting. Then they came back and said yes. So the outfit that I produced was was like a mini skirt, quite a gender fluid outfit, and I wanted stripper heels. And I was like, I have faith in you. You can walk in it. And then I didn't realize that I was going to be picked again for another show during New Zealand Fashion Week. And then they say to me, which more is this meant to be for female? And I go, no, it's for male. And they straight away said, I didn't know we have these kind of designers here on this side of this world. And then I go, what was the referencing about? And the lady said to me, because no one is wanting to push the boundaries. This is the first time I've seen it. And I was like, oh. But then it just made me think, I'm like, just shows how safe New Zealand fashion is.
Because you came into it not thinking about what they're saying, like not worrying about it, but not knowing that was the go for.
Yeah,
you were just doing your own thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, was it? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to I'm trying to make sure that everything across the board is mentioned. Do you know what I mean? So I have a tall model, a short model, fat model, skinny model, a fair model, like everything in between, because the whole point of it is that, because from a marketing perspective, if you see someone that's similar in my outfits, you can relate to that straight away. So therefore you're like, oh, I can buy that jacket. Well, because I've seen it. Because I see someone similar to me. But if I have these beautiful Amazonian women and beautiful strong men, you're like, first of all, I don't have abs. Second of all, who has that kind of figure? You can't relate to that. But in your head, you're like, and especially for Pacific Islanders, you are already thinking it only looks good on him because he's that size.
Sorry, Philly Tupper, you can't come into. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Just I'm always just trying to make sure that all my boxes are ticked and making sure that everyone can see themselves wearing my stuff. Because my stuff's not for the weak-hearted, and that's just it. Being honest, I don't create simple silhouettes and easy colors to go for your everyday wardrobe. Like, if you're serious about your confidence, come to me and I will dress you with that.
It's cool you mentioned that, because I didn't know there was a thing where fashion designers have specific models they like to model their clothes, like shape models.
Because when you're in the industry, there's already a set size, so it's interesting. So the sizes declined each year. So I think in the 90s it was a size 6 as a sample size. So this is what we see on the runway and pictures and stuff like that.
Is it for Island 2-year-old, is it? Or?
Oh no! This is for like grown woman,
Nah.
but it declined. So I think I'm not too sure what it is now, but I know a couple of years back the sample size was size 00.
Oh my lord.
So there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's a thread. But that was, and then that was pushed, and then ever since, you need to give your big ups to Ashley Graham. She was the one who was pushing for plus size women,
Mm-hmm.
and then now we've got the whole big boom of like beautiful women now of who have curves, who are real figures.
Shit, and that's going back some time, man. Because I remember when Posty Plus used to post their plus size stuff, and I'm like, man, these ladies are curvy. Eh? Then I used to be like, I'm gonna get the leader when it comes, because I know they're gonna have that in the paper.
But that's the truth. That's just that's just.
It would have been like 2003, 2002.
Yeah.
But I remember like seeing like a plus size lady wearing jeans and like a cardigan. I'll be like, damn. Gone are the Hey Sister in the Warehouse magazine, and she's like skinny then. Wow.
But because I don't know, there's many things that even with the modeling industry, I've noticed that a lot of Polynesian models who are really for like big shows, like working for New Zealand Fashion Week and for like Europe and Australia and stuff like that. Majority of those models are just picked for catalog, but just like Warehouse and Percy Plus and stuff like that. Stuff that it's easy to but that's where the money's coming from. But I'm like, why can't they be the face of Louis Vuitton or something like that? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's stopping it? But it's just, I just feel like it's what the industry is kind of like pinpointing. But I'm trying to prove the point now where I'm like, no, anyone can be a model. It's just if you're how serious about the work of it, because it's a huge thing. Because I always encourage models, the one thing, if you want to be serious about a model, you have to be, everything is from you. Your whole thing is your money. So the way you look, the way how you hold yourself, what you wear, your personality, even if your weight. Like, so if you want to come as a 3XL, you have to stay as a 3XL. I don't want to come back and you're like, now you're a 4XL. It's sad that it's like that, but it's true though, because it's just, you have to think about a designer's perspective. I made an outfit for you at a 3XL, and now you want me to expand to 4XL? Surely. You got an extra $400 to remake the whole outfit for you. So yeah, it's just stuff like that. But I don't know. We're in an age now where anyone can be a model. Hello, there's heaps of people on models who are on social media. In other websites, they do not say.
So you cracked it in these white shows then with your stuff, huh? So you know how you said that New Zealand's safe.
Oh,
Like what impact did you have on them after you did that? After you did your style of show?
I don't know. The one thing I know from what people have said, they go, I bring the energy. And it's because it's coming to the point where I think there was a lot of designers doing a lot of women stuff, which is nothing wrong. But when you work in fashion, you realize women's clothing make a lot more money than men's clothing, by huge margin. But my thing was like, I feel like why not us Polynesian men? Why can't we look good too? What's stopping us? But the reason what's stopping us is because it's what's out there. I think now the trend now is mini shorts, jeans and a hoodie jumper. That's the trend now. They were in Australia, I think, and then now we're moving to 2000s also, like baggy cargo pants and a t-shirt. But it's Polynesian men have a simple style that gets switched around. It's being repetitive quite commonly, just due to the fact of what's out there in the public eye for us. So we need someone who's like, I'm trying to say, like, let's say we had like a equivalent to Ryan Reynolds, who's a like fashion mogul person. If he was Polynesian and he was wearing out of outfits, then I think that's where we get the growth of men wearing different kind of fashions. But we don't have that. Because look at all the rappers now. That's what everyone's referencing. And then when you get older, you're just like, I just want to wear a t-shirt and shorts. It's easier.
for the longest time when I see these shows on TV, like I'm not watching the whole thing. I see it and then it comes on the news and I see the clothes they're wearing and so to me I think, man, these are outfits like so out there. I will never see anyone wear these outside in the nightclub or going out in town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'll never see this stuff in real life. Like people wearing it. But is that sort of like the goal for fashion, to get these kind of outfits out there to change the fashion of what people wear going out? You know what I mean? Because some of these outfits, like for extreme thing is the wearable outerwards, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, but not that. No one's gonna wear that obviously in outside. But
Can you imagine?
yeah, big peacock thing at the back of you and stuff.
Just to get my rapper steroid.
But then if you watch NBA, you watch Russell Westbrook when he always comes in his out of his clothes. Like, in America they're wearing this stuff.
Yeah. There's an American designer called Tom Brown. He actually, I don't know what group, but this was really clever of him, was that he basically dressed all the whole NBA team. So when they left, they're all wearing his suits. But there was different types, because there are different heights and stuff like that. But I think LeBron James, I think it was his team at that time, but he was wearing like a suit, but it had shorts, and then the other one was wearing a suit. It was different, but it was basically his brand. And I thought that was so clever of him to do that, because at the end of the game, like after they finish, they have their shower and like wind down. Now they're getting ready to go back home. They have to leave the stadium. But they would all leave together. They would leave all together and his stuff. And it was like basically like a little mini fashion show.
It is, because I think how they do it in the States, when any sports team, when they come to the stadium, they all come back individually.
Yeah.
They all drive up themselves and the cameras are always outside waiting for them to walk in, and they're walking in and they're filming them just walking with their clothes and whatever they're wearing.
But when they leave all together, But to get back to your fashion question, so to put in some context, so there's different types of realms of fashion. So there's ready to wear, so that's basically stuff that you see and like I can buy straight away. And then there's high end, which is similar to ready to wear but a bit more expensive. So same jacket but probably in leather. And then the other one is avant-garde, which is the the out of it. I don't know. Like for example, Moschino did a hamburger dress. Like we would wear that, so that's avant-garde. And then there's haute couture. Now haute couture is where the top of fashion is where these garments are like $10,000. And you're like, who would pay? And I'm like, but the reason you pay 10,000 is because you're paying everyone who made that dress. So for example, probably went through like 75 hands. You're legitimately actually paying the right amount to those people who made it. No, like $10 an hour. So they probably can pay like $100 an hour, depending on their skill level. But that $10,000 dress is worth, because you're paying these people. But it's to put it in another context is we do, so the fashion show is usually 15 to 35 minutes, depending on people come in and leave. But 35 minutes just to be shown on the runway for 15 minutes for a year's work.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I was just about to ask that.
Yeah, so that's what we would do for a whole year, organize fitting stuff like that just for 15 minutes on the runway.
Wow.
And then bang, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So you know how you said 75 people.
Yeah. So
what's the process on that kind of item of clothing like?
So these haute couture, they're like art pieces, but also they're made to be wearable. But these things that like for example, they're called artisans. They're like, say for example, like a fashion house, say Christian Dior, they have someone who's known for beading, so they would bead the garment. But they also needed to have it embroidered. They could use somebody else to embroider it. Then they could use somebody else to pattern make it. It's like mini hands. And then it's interesting because so a lot of their stuff, I don't know, there's a documentary about with Chanel where they had one garment that they were struggling with because they're like, we can't get it. So they made it so they had the whole, I think it was like 7 months, but they were cutting it right up close. They literally were stitching her just before she got onto the runway because they were struggling with it. It's really difficult. But it just shows, even if you're a professional, timing is everything. So they had 7 months, and then right up to that minute before they're calling, okay, time to models to walk out, and then gone.
So that 15 minutes of fame. So what happens to the garment after that? Like what?
It depends. So there's usually a buyer on the buyer who's sitting on the stage. He was like, oh yeah, I'll come backstage and have a talk. And then but some shows actually bring out the garments afterwards for the buyers and industry people to see if what they want to do with it. For example, so after 15 minutes and you talk and you hoo-hoo parade, and then the garments sometimes will, if the models are still around, they would come back on stage and stand there, and then it's up to the like, oh, can I get 5,000 of these? Can I get
Wow.
yeah, so stuff. I don't know if they still do this now, but that's what's commonly done. And then sometimes they have and it's just people sitting on, because you don't know who's sitting in the crowd. I don't know. There's a model named Chanel Limon. She had her first ever runway, and she winked and smiled someone out in the crowd, and she didn't realize that she smiled at Anna Wintour, and her whole modeling career changed. She went from being a nobody to somebody within a night, and it just shows you don't know who's looking, because in the fashion show, the crowd was dark. The model, the only
Yeah,
light
'cause
you
of the
see,
light.
it's specifically on the runway. So when you're walking, you're just like, who's over there? Who's there? You know?
Can you see the what's it called? The affiliation with Swiss Network with the on-brand runway model thing coming up in association with Tanuvasa Walter's music. Nice.
So man, what kind of famous overseas designers have come to shows in New Zealand? Like, are we a big name in the whole worldwide industry?
Did people know that they come in their way? Because they probably wouldn't, eh?
Nah, it's not. Everyone is trying to get over to Europe to showcase their. I think the goal is to try. I know for them, for those designers to try showcase everyone in Europe. For me personally, a goal that I would love to achieve is to conquer Asia.
Why Asia?
Just because it's one of the most hardest countries to ever try conquer. China, Japan, Korea. If you can conquer those countries, you're basically set for life. Because if you look about it, transitions to the States and Europe is easy.
Yeah.
They've done it heaps of times. But somewhere to transition to Asia, it's always a question mark. But Asia transitioning to us is easier. So it's like, if we can ace that game of trying to, if I could ace that game and try to, having being part of Chinese Fashion Week, South Korea's Fashion Week, Japan Fashion Week, and also having shops there and being acknowledged in, yeah.
So it's like the little segment where we say if there's any Tongan rugby players, league players ever in Japan right now, we're gonna Takoni. Because that would be the thing, like the NBA thing, right?
Yeah.
It would be like, okay, so you get a few of these Tongan boys, get them on social media, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. Like,
yeah.
Athletes are big.
Because it's the sevens players in Japan. That's why I know that much. The sevens players get treated like royalty, and all the Tongan boys, they come back home and they tell me,
yeah,
if you all want to be like famous like that guy, you play sevens.
Well, because that's the thing. Because I wouldn't say, but I'm trying to get my foot in the wrestling industry over in Japan. So that's what's happening right now. But not only that, like, there's many goals I want to achieve over in Asia. Like, imagining like having my outfits headlining like a K-pop group who's famous in this world. Like, K-pop is everywhere now. So being able to have like design a whole outfit for their concert.
For BTS.
Oh, wow. Any more groups you know?
Oh yeah, like 21,
But that's the goal.
But that's cool that you've spoken about it, man.
Yeah, because
that's the start. You said it out loud.
Yeah,
because
just
even
play back this podcast every time.
Yeah, bro. When I'm like, I'll really reach out to some Tongan boys and coaching.
Because even in university, I think the question that was asked was, where would you like to achieve, like go to, and all the students remember said Europe, and I said, I want to go to Asia. Like, well, what can I do over there? Just I don't know. I just feel like fashion over there, their level of fashion is way different. It's way more out of it, way more crazy. But still, nonetheless, I know many people who went to Japan and came back with out of issues that you can get nowhere else.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, 'cause I got it from Japan. And I'm like, see?
Is that a good reason to, because when you go to China and you say it's like all Alevit stuff, because you are doing Alevit stuff,
Yeah.
it's gonna be something different for them to see. If you go to Europe and America, like you gotta actually be in their trend.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Because it's like, I guess it's trying to almost kind of be like have a future mindset of like where would it fit? Where would you suit? People say I had a really well known makeup artist say to me, she goes, your stuff would fit well in New York. And I go, yeah, because New York is quite new. Always think of something different. Hello, their fashion week is unlike anybody else. They have many, let's say, social media people go there just for their fashion week. So it's a huge thing. But she said, yeah, your stuff would do well in New York and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh.
Is it hard to being a fashion designer in New Zealand? Is it hard, or being a fashion designer in general? Is it hard to not be influenced by the other items, the other designers, and just come with your own kind of style? Because obviously, you're gonna look at other things and play a big part into your design, or it might be just be 10%, but it's still influence. But because I've always heard like people say they don't want to see anything out there because they want to come on their own, have their own space, have their own sort of like. I hear that with content creators when they don't want to listen to other content creators. They don't want to be influenced by anyone else. They want to come with their own stuff, their own style.
I think yes, but at the same time, I'm like, how can you not stop it?
Yeah.
How are you gonna stop?
And that's the difficult part.
Yeah, because I'm like, I think the idea is if you're really creative and really, really strong about what you do, then you take that idea and you flip it and you turn it around to make it your own thing. But it's nothing wrong with I feel like it's nothing wrong with using other people's ideas. If only you do it 10 times better than that person. But if it's just a muesli copy with just a different color, then you're a biter.
Because Asia is so different from us, then you have more of a chance to be different over there.
Well, hopefully, because a lot of people say to me, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but people have said to me, "Oh, I can see your stuff, in K-pop. I can see your stuff in Asia," which is good because that's not the market who I'm going for. My person I'm trying to aim at is Polynesian men. I'm saying like we can wear nice clothes too. Doesn't have to be pro clubs and another pro club bottom, But that's just what's comfortable there for guests for them.
Are you always keeping up to date with the fashion in New Zealand? Like what?
No.
Nope. Up to date?
Nope.
What everyone's wearing and all of that?
I do. If you see my cousin, man, like we show out to stuff, you can tell it's him. He's either got a nice blazer on or a nice shirt. His hair's done. It's like, what's this guy wearing? That's how you know we're on this. It's like, there he is over there.
That's the old John. I got rid of my wardrobe.
Oh, man, I was one trying to hit you up for a jacket.
No, I binned all my clothes. So when I went through this whole healing process, I binned everything. And I even binned again the end of last year. Like I've only got like the pure basics, t-shirt, top bottoms, underwear, and then I try and make sure that I have like maybe 4 outfits that are like out of it, but I can just wear for a special occasion. I don't know, I just had the urge to just.
I think everyone needs to do that sometimes.
Well, because so I don't know. There's this fashion designer named Rick Owen. He's only got so he's a fashion designer. He's like a really conceptual thinker in terms of designing. But his wardrobe, he showed it on, I think it was like a interview, and he opened like this cupboard, and his wardrobe is like this tiny, and it's just a pair of black pants and a t-shirt and a jacket. That's his wardrobe. And I was just like, wow, you're a multi-millionaire designer. You could wear anything you want, but he decides to just wear those. And he goes, and then the extra little bit on top of it, that's his pajamas. That's all he wears. And it just makes you really think. I'm like, that's it. Do we really, like, just makes you really think, like, okay, what's in your wardrobe that's actually worth keeping? Because I'm like, we all
Like becoming a minimalist, almost.
yeah.
Yeah. Who's the Facebook guy? Guy that owns Facebook. He always wears the same clothes every day, like the same. But his wardrobe's got the same color T-shirt, the same jeans, like for 7 days. And the reason why he said, oh, because I don't have to think when I wake up. I'll just go put it on and go. Saves me 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Well, and also people think that if you go home and you need to go home when you change your clothes out of your clothes, you just need to hang them. You don't have to put on the washing. They last for another 4 more days. That's when it starts to get. But people don't. That's the thing. We're not taught this. We just check on and then wear something brand new. It's like, no, if you hang it out to let it air out, you've got another 4 more days for the outfit. And I'm always doing that. I'm always, because I'm like, washing, because water destroys your garments.
Yeah.
If you constantly wash it. So that favorite T-shirt that you like to wear every day, but you have to wash every week, will just cut its life down to maybe, I don't know, you'll probably lose 5 years out of it.
Especially jeans, eh? Jeans are...
Yeah. Well, they say you can wear jeans you cannot wash it for like months, but I'm like, nah, I think a week should be fine. It's meant for work.
Yeah.
So it's, it holds dirt really easily, but I don't know how people can wash it within a month.
So the best way to wash jeans, you got to turn it inside out.
Yeah.
And throw it in. Or anything, any
So they
any
say.
item.
Yeah.
I love how jeans have come a long way. Gone are the days they were like tight, and if you pinned down, they're like tight on the thighs, tight on the hips. Now you got those stretchy pants,
Well, I think because that's the trend that's happening now. You look at music. So, for example, when Ariana Grande, when she popped up out of nowhere, people were saying, "Oh, she reminds you of Mariah Carey," and that was our first thought when we first heard that first song by her. But when she came, I noticed that that's when the fashions were representative of the 90s, and it's interesting because I was like, that was the reference point for her, was like she sounds like Mariah Carey, but the whole fashion was like 90s inspired. And then now with all these new singers, a lot of the music now is very nostalgia to 2000s, and so the fashion is nostalgia to the 2000s. And it's just, I'm just like, oh. Like all the platform shoes are starting to come back in, like the baggy cargo pants. I'm like, so they disappeared ages ago. Now they're back again. The printed T-shirts, but not just any, like the really out of it printed T-shirts. Yeah, that was from the 90s, in the early 2000s. So yeah, it's just fashion. The one thing you learn at university, fashion's always a repeat. Everything's repetitive. I guess it's like, for example, because some designers only do a specific look that suits a certain era. So if their stuff is really like 80s reference, like strong 80s vibe, they won't suit the 2000. Or they'll be like, oh, it's out of it. Of course I'll wear it, but at the same time, it's like, not your era. So it's just kind of adjust. The point of being a designer is to adjust your creativity to what's happening around with the trends and stuff like that. Yeah.
There was a guy I work with. He's from Spain, and he came over and started working with us. But he was saying, "Man, your country, man, why does everyone wear black?" That's what he said. And I didn't even. He told me that. I was like, "Oh, true, yeah." I didn't even notice. Like, people do wear black.
Do you know how that's so interesting? Because if you go to every fashion store and in every mall or any shop like that, there's always a black wall.
Oh yeah.
Because it's what's commonly, that's what sells. Because when you work in retail, especially when you work in high end, so I've worked for high end and also low end, but it's interesting. There's always a black wall. So there's always a black pant wall, or if in accessories, there's a black wall there. Even if you look at sneaker shop, there's always a black and white wall there. Doesn't need to be, but it's because it's what's commonly sells here in New Zealand. Black.
Right. I always thought that was because of the All Blacks. That's the first thing I thought.
We'll go with that.
Is it because of the All Blacks? Do we like black?
Support New Zealand, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Just
But then it's a safe color. Eh? Like
Yeah.
if you think of all the shoes we get in the stores, and it's always black and white shoes. Eh?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
and
hello, look at number one shoe warehouse. There's only black,
brown. Or,
brown, and then lucky if there's a grey.
mm.
There's definitely a white, but it's just it's what we like here. It's safe options.
Yeah.
And then especially with sneakers too, because when you look at internet and you look at what they sell in America, like all sorts of different colors that you
Yeah.
can't get here. Eh? And you hardly see any black.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know what the fascination is, but I think just because New Zealand's as a conservative country, just in general.
Mm.
So if you're a bit, I don't know, a bit weird and a bit odd, then
You're gonna get noticed because New Zealand is a conservative country in the sense where any designer or any content creator doing something out the box, out the gate, is gonna get noticed. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I just always found that interesting, just how conservative we are, but yet we are also the people that complain like, oh, I wish we had something a bit more adventurous. Eh?
Straight up, because
And I'm like, yeah, but what do we do when we go to shop? We buy the black thing, eh? I don't bring black.
You're gonna need to go with my white shoes and this black T-shirt.
We should make a like a music revolution name from now on. No more black stuff. Don't buy any black stuff.
Boycott it.
Boycott black.
Oh, it's funny because there's a lot of top designers in New Zealand who only make black. Good luck to that. I don't know. I think for me, it just feel like black is just a utility color. Like it's easy. You just chuck it on and off you go. Doesn't matter if it gets dirty, 'cause no one will see it.
Yeah.
It's funny because the kids like when we go shopping for them for their clothes for the New Year stuff, like they pick stuff. I think, man, do you like that? Yeah, that's the fashion. I went, what? What kind of fashion is that?
Yeah, but can you imagine when you were at that age and your parents were like,
Yeah.
So you want to buy that?
But I haven't felt the return of the baggy stuff yet, the baggy pants yet, because that was a big.
It was already in my house.
Is that?
Yeah, because my kids are wearing the plus sizes, like the hoodies, the tees, and the jeans. Probably like last year, early year before that.
Yeah. So the 2000 it's coming back again. So
Especially the washed look.
The what?
The washed look, like the faded. Like.
Oh yeah.
Are you serious? It looks like you just got something out of the recycle.
So my mom used to work for Line 7, and my nephew came and he wore these cargo pants, and I looked and I went, being a designer, I went to touch the fabric, and I go, hey, this is the stuff that my mom used to make her old job the shorts out of, and I remember owning 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but this was in the 2000s, and it just made me think like, oh my gosh, the trend is coming back around.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh. So anything that you remember from the 2000s, you'll see it likely again.
Oh, it's already happening in our house. Because my mother-in-law, she keeps like bags of clothes that my brother-in-law used to own. And like some of the wardrobe's still there. And then like they're going, Nana, can I go through? Can I? And then my wife's like, what are these for, thanks? Like, this is the look. And next minute I see she's wearing them. I'm like, that's like how much it's come back.
Even the suits, the new fashion of the suits.
Yeah.
Like the tight pants but the different colorways, the different color pants, different color blazer.
Yeah,
goes off your inside shirt and
I think
stuff like that.
Wasn't that like from a chino's look though?
But there was that TikTok where they do these things. You only need to buy 5 suits and you can create 300 suits. You have different versions.
I haven't been on TikTok in a while.
I didn't even own it. I didn't know.
That's pretty mean.
I deleted my TikTok about like a couple of months back.
Oh yeah.
Because I noticed, I was like, so I've been on this for an hour.
Oh yeah, but that's what it is, man. Just
But then you need to be on it again for your business.
Like, I got a work phone.
Oh.
But I died laughing because I deleted TikTok and I'm still watching shorts on Instagram.
As you casually do, yeah.
I was like, what's the point of deleting TikTok? I'm still on looking at short videos on another platform.
So how are you using social media now with your business?
So social media, I have Instagram, TikTok. There is a YouTube and Facebook. YouTube is still trying to figure that out. Because understanding the industry now that YouTube is becoming less and less more attractive because because we've become short spanned now, especially the new generation. It has to be easy come, easy go, like really short stuff to grab onto someone.
Because I see YouTube started doing the shorts now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the videos are becoming less and less long.
Mm.
I think
30 seconds was almost too long.
Yeah.
Almost. It's more like 25 seconds is good.
because I think
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was Mr. Beast, but he said that you need to try capture somebody's
Attention.
within their first 30 seconds, and if you don't, then
Yeah.
you lost him already.
It's like 10 seconds now almost.
Yeah.
If you watch something, you can see up to, I think, 30 images within the first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then after 10 seconds, it's like point being before you go to the next video.
Yeah. So that's just how it is right now. But
If you're listening to Mr. Beast, then you're listening to a good, good kind of expert at all this kind of stuff.
so just that. But I think my main platform right now, I think, is Instagram and TikTok, but more or less Instagram, because it just works because for pictures and stuff like that. That's what's working for me right now. We do have a list of what we need to do when we have a post up session. So we try aim for like a week. Within that week, we try post it at a certain time, and a certain style of captions and stuff like that, and also tagging other people and so forth. But the goal is to try. My goal is to try have all the pictures like have the little logo on the bottom, just to make it stand out. I guess I don't know if I have to answer your question.
Yeah, because it's like how do you navigate through social media in terms of how to get your business out there, how to market your business? Because when you talked a little bit about going through the analytics, and so you've probably discovered that you need to post at a certain day.
Yeah,
because that's what I do. I don't do much of it, but I should. I think I should do more of it. But the thing I do is like with this podcast, like for Instagram anyway, I just look at when everybody's jumping on at a certain time during the day, and it's always like starts at 12 o'clock midday, then and then it's like it's maxed at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I try to post 6, 7.
Yeah, because anything in the morning, no one is paying attention to their phone because they just literally get up, probably put on some music to play, and then run around, get ready for the day. To try put it in during their lunchtime, I don't know. Everyone's lunch break is different, so you'll lose the point of view. But I feel like anything after 5 is good because
you're relaxed. They're relaxed.
Yeah, they're relaxed, or they're stuck in traffic. There's always that one, maybe 5 cars. They're like, and you will pop up and they'll be like, oh yeah, and then. But the goal is to capture them to the point where they're like, oh, okay, if I can do one thing while I'm in the car, at least I can and if I have extra time, and then share. So you can try to capture that. But I know it's a hard thing because there's no wrong or right way to social media.
For me, I feel like I've looked at it, and all through the platforms, they're all different. Like Instagram's different to Facebook. Yeah. Because for me, Facebook is all in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For some reason, it's all in the morning and before 12 and 12. Then it sort of dies down. Yeah. And then goes back up about 11 at night, 12 o'clock at night. Because I guess people
in bed.
People in the bed scrolling through there. Yeah. That kind of stuff. And other thing I learned about Facebook, it's a good one for Pacific Islanders. Yeah. Because there's heaps. Yeah. I think every Pacific Islander is on Facebook. Yeah. It's like the main one there.
The one thing I also find interesting is trying to not oversaturation, like not constantly push out content, because the point I noticed that we get heaps of interaction when we post up something, but then when we don't have anything, it's fine, but we also lose followers. But we get double that the next time when we post up something. I think it's just because of too much posting up can be annoying sometimes.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That people, they don't like their feeds to be full of just that one thing.
And then you're like, oh, just kind of unfollow them because they're
annoying. Training videos, you mean? Weekends. So yeah. But no, that's cool that you can both, because you can obviously see the engagement on your pages, so you can see how people are and like people, the algorithm sort of moving people. But I like how you can like something and then other people, like new followers, will see. Yeah. Hey, but like for me, it's like see new speaker face. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh no, like bro, that's my cuz. Like because like not like you don't come across it every day, man. You know what I mean? So like this SNL little logo that I've got, here's my Doxers. So he's from the hood, And he always talked about it. And he always talked about it. And I was like, well, you know, you can have that conversation with the boys. What's stopping you? And so he's on his third press. So I got this as the second run because I said, bro, you got to put the dot colors in.
Yeah.
You know, the blue's not for me. But then he's done it.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's like, bro, I said I'll plug you on the pod. But hey, you doing the docs. Like, you know, you're an owner, brand owner. It's like a lot of us are, I want to push a label. But then it doesn't, it's not for the long game, you know what I mean? It was just like, I just wanted to always do it. And I'm not gonna say that I hate, but it's like, why can't we think bigger?
Yeah.
Hey, to the point, like, how about you set this up overseas and all you're doing is ring? Hey,
Yeah.
I need 400 units of this.
Yeah.
To the point you can just let it run itself almost, you know?
But I think we're not taught that though.
And we're not motivated, cuz.
Yeah.
That's a huge one, is we're not motivated.
Because for us, especially for an island boy, at least the goal is to play rugby, team play rugby, think like, okay, stay in for long, then like, okay, try get into like a good club, get in a good club. Okay, now try go for All Blacks or something like that. You know, that's the goal that is driven for us, or that's kind of like laid out for a lot of Polynesian young boys out there. But I'm trying to prove to the point where like, you don't have to do that. If you like design, go for it. If you like art, go for it. If you want to become an actor, go for it. You know, it shouldn't be, but it's just what it is because it's a rugby country, I guess.
Do you ever get negative remarks about what you're doing, like a little bit of pushback from, especially our people? Because you know, when we talk about, there's always this talk about tall poppy syndrome, you know, everybody's, you know, tries to put people down, and you know that they probably just do it, but we get affected by the words that are said or things that are said.
Almost to the point people unconsciously do it.
Knowing
that they hate it, you know.
And then next minute we're thinking, oh yeah, you must be right, so now I won't do that. You know, that's kind of like the downfall of why maybe a lot of us don't push forward into what we're gonna do, because then you get everybody talking about, nah, we don't even do that. So why are you doing it?
Well, yes. Oh, heaps. But the common thing is like, who would read that? And I'm like, obviously not you then.
That's it. But that's the kind of attitude we have to have to push back on that kind of stuff.
I don't know. Just I think when you go through your life and you understand life more, you need to learn just to be happy. Like, don't take life serious. Because the moment you do, trust me, you're just gonna be a bitter old angry person. And I was like, nah, man, be happy. Like I kid you not, I could be in a serious team meeting, and I'm like, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 going, so John, and I'm like, wait, so what? Or I'm like giggling at something silly that my team member said, and they're like, you can't do that, and I'm like, it's funny though. But it just shows a sense of humanity that you like. Okay, I can be serious, but you know that you can maneuver life real easy, because if you're just serious about everything, you can't get things done that way. There has to be a sense of humor, like, to go through life. Like, look at comedians and stuff like that. You know, they get big because laughing is a good thing. Laughing is fun. It's exciting. There's no wrong or right. Yeah, and everyone can do it. It's not just a one thing. So I don't know. I just always encourage you on just to be happy.
As part of you not listening to the noise and all that, part of that come from the therapy you had and how you dealt with your past, and taking the baggage away and just understanding how to move forward. It's a lot clearer, and there's a straight line now, and now there's nothing that can stop me now.
I don't know. Just when someone asks me that question, I just simply just laugh. I'm like, I just laugh at it.
Because maybe that's part of the process.
I think you've really jumped over it, man. Because 2 years deep, it wouldn't have come easy. No. But it's obviously looking at look at me now. At those who said, oh, who would wear that? Well, 2 years deep. Like, that's the tall poppy syndrome right there. Like, people have been.
Yeah, because I think my last post up, somebody goes, oh, who would wear those green shoes? And I just laughed and go, maybe your dad will wear
I was gonna say your mama.
but it's funny but I can't post like that. I can't react like that because that's what the negative energy wants, to react like that. But I was like, I'll just say it to myself, and then I'll say it to my team, so we all can laugh together. But for me personally, I'm just like, I don't know. You just don't take it serious. Just don't take it serious.
And a lot of people will struggle with that because, to be honest, a lot of people will struggle with that exact thing. Like, life's supposed to be like a beach, eh?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, but then some people it doesn't register like that. It's like, nah, man, like, hey, fuck, you gotta concentrate. Like, you need to pay attention. But it's like, man, but some people they get to the places that they're at because they just weren't too serious. Like, almost to the point, like, man, because once that desire is gone, it's
I don't know. Look at Bill Gates. Have you seen him in his interviews? He's happy, and people are like, oh, but he's got money. And I'm like, no, because he went to he did all the stretches before and everything, but then now he's so comfortable in his life. He's like, he's happy, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the whole point is just to be happy from the beginning, Of course, you're gonna have your moments, your ups and your downs. You're crying, and your moments. You're like, oh my gosh. When I was in Australia, I cried because I had no family, had no one there, just me and my team. But I didn't wanna. I go, my team is my team. I need to separate personally. So I called up my friend. I'm like, oh my god, and she's like, yeah, I know. And I just vented to her, and she was like, and she goes, why do you feel? Because it's the first time where I have no support, no one there to be like, no, you got this, John. Have you there mentally? But then I was like, after I had my little wine down, my fat cry, then literally, I kid you not, in Australia, when we went to the day of the show, everything worked out tremendously because we went on Tuesday of that week of the show. We went there for rehearsals. We were sorted. We came in. All we needed to do is to dress my Australian model, and that was it. And then to realize that I was the only New Zealand designer there. Not only that, I had the only New Zealand model there. So straight away, we're like, oh, you guys are the outsiders. And hearing that that Australian designers and Australian models are a bit weird about outsiders because they're like, oh, you don't know anything. And just like laugh. I'm like, relax.
Don't take it serious.
alrighty.
We're not trying to put out a fire or anything. Just but that's just how it was. So that whole process of just trying to, be calm and be happy with myself, it wasn't until after that I was like, oh no, yeah, I'm happy. Because after coming back home from Australia, when I finally lay down on my own bed, I go, no, I'm happy. Because I conquered Sydney. I don't have to go back there anymore, unless someone wants to pay for me to go back to do something. Because this will go on YouTube, right?
Because you know what, like, just hearing you say that, like, you'll probably like, because when Cameron posts these Dalanos, we hear the audio first, and like that's how I like to listen to it back. But you'll listen to this back, and then just from hearing you talk about it, you talking about like how the sisters moved out, and then you were home with mum and dad, and it's you, and then you might not realize this, but like you talking about you moving to Sydney without the support. What you dealt with at home made you strong in Sydney.
Yeah.
And you talking about your circle of friends and your day ones, the ones you need when, likewise when they need you.
Yeah.
That's who you reached out to. So it means you conquered it before you even got there, but you didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Because it was like, man, all that stuff that happened in your life right up until that point was like, you were made to do it because you're now standing 2 years deep, man, on a part out West Auckland.
I think what you're saying there is important too, because that is a process for anything that you've worked hard for, or you don't realize the amount of work you put into something, and then when it comes to the crunch time, we get nervous, we get butterflies, but maybe we just don't understand that we're here for a reason, because we put all the work in, so we've got nothing to worry about, because everything we've done to get us to this point, we can actually just take a breath. We've got this. Let's do it, and then it'll be once you're doing it, oh yes, I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know. My trip to Australia was it was an eye opener. It was it was so interesting. It was just to understand. Oh, first of all, we have the lady who runs Janaka, who runs the Pacific Runway in Sydney. Her husband is a Tanuvasa, or a partner, so we're related. She's been messaging me personally, and she gets the next time I see him, want to say hey, cuz, and I'm like. Yeah, these Tanuvasas are everywhere. But I think so because when I went to Australia, I had no expectation. When we had rehearsals, my Australian model said they were placed in the middle, and I get okay, cool. And I'm happy with it. I was, wasn't trying to force anything. Then when we come to the day of show, the new lineup happened, and I was placed at near the end, and I was shocked because I was like, oh, I'm placed near the end. I thought I would, for me, I was like, oh, they'll just put me in the middle because it's fair, but they placed me near I think I was 11th, and I was like, oh, 11, my birthday is 11, so I was like, oh, okay. But everything worked out perfectly to the point where my model that I took with me, I feel like he needs to be more recognized as a model, but he didn't get that at a previous show that he was part of, and it was upsetting because I'm like, this guy is no joke. He was doing constant changes in and out, but he was walking male and female, but then he got no recognition, and I was like, oh, if there was one person I felt like this person, he would have received it. But when we went to Sydney, he was like the it model. Everyone was in love with him. All the girls were. I remember because I went to the makeup artist. I'm like, can you? And I had a talk with the makeup artist. The makeup artist was so cool that he was getting in trouble with the team because they're like, you said you'll be finished 5 minutes ago. He was still taking his time. But when all the girls saw my male model come, I'm like, wow, he looks airbrushed, and I'm like. Well, I looked after him, so it's the reason why he was the only one that had the nice makeup at the show. But I don't know. I was just the whole outcome of Australia was really interesting, and I learned a lot from it, personally and mentally as well. But I was just happy because he got so many feedback to the point where he's been casted to be part of other shows around the world to model.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, finally,
What's his name?
Sus Nation.
Sus Nation.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sus Nation.
Yeah, shout out to Sus Nation. I always laugh because he always laughs at me because like, you're my Naomi Campbell, so I can't let anything happen to you. He just like, don't. He's like, relax. I'm like, well, I'm not being serious. So yeah, I take pride of him modeling for me because I'm like, he's basically defying what's normal here in New Zealand, encouraging little boys who want to walk in heels to say it's okay, but it's not easy. You will feel the backlash of it, but it's persistent and game to try to keep pushing forward. Yeah.
So, what were some of the outcomes that came out of that Sydney show? Because you got that Paris recognition from that show, didn't you?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I got an email and they say you there's an invitation to come to Paris Fashion Week, and I just stood there, laughed, and I was like, this is a joke.
I could hear that at Christmas with Dad and Dad going, fair. I'm lucky.
This is a joke. This is just not it. And then in my head, I was just like, oh, be nice to be noticed. But the other thing I guess I learned was this whole process of receiving information and then delivering information. So, for example, if somebody says to me, apple and banana, I would say banana and apple. But the whole point of that is it's how the person delivers the information to you. And it's like some people say Chinese whispers, Samoan whispers, whatever you want to call it. But I just noticed that it's trying to control that conversation piece with someone or with people, that's what led me to cutting a lot of people, because I was like, it's interesting because I say one thing and then it gets said differently to another person. It's still under some similar realm, but it's said in a different connotation, like almost kind of like, oh, you said it almost if I was being mean. But it's like I didn't mean it that way. That was just me being bluntly honest. But that just understanding the whole process was really interesting. Was like we receive information different from everybody else out there, but we also deliver information different from out there. But even that understanding how to deliver information and receiving information is interesting, because we can only receive it in one way, but it's how we deliver it. That's the next thing. So, and then just even understanding that that's right besides with business and stuff like that. You know, you need to nudge certain people, but also you need to deliver yourself in a way where it's not too pushy, but also it's also not too pushy, but also for them to receive it in a way where they can deliver their information similar or somewhat in that realm to somebody else who could potentially give you the money that you need or the thing that you might need.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing, because especially when you text people or message people, like, and sometimes when you say something, it's in your tone as well, because you can say the same thing. You have different tones and mean different things depending on what your tone is.
Yeah.
But the chatting thing, the messaging thing is funny, because it's almost like sometimes we need to put the LOL at the end of it just to make sure that we're just joking or we're not serious. You know, the LOL is magic when it comes to.
They're like, oh, they didn't mean it serious. Say, oh, I'm like, oh, they're all good.
Yeah.
But if no haha, no LOL, I'm like, dude, this guy is serious.
Exactly.
Hey, what's wrong, eh? I know you love, eh?
Like everything falls apart if there's no LOL at the end there.
Yeah, you have to add the LOL. Lol.
But I just find it funny. It's just that in general, trying to communicate that way. That's where we are right now.
Would you revisit the Paris, like, if the invitation came up again? Would you, like, consider it, like, revisit it, consider it, and actually look at a planet trying to get over? Or would it be the same if you were to be invited into the Japan market, like, for a show? Like, now that you're 2 years deep and you've laughed it off, but if the opportunity came up to go, would you go?
No. Because there's still more work here to do. I think
that's part of your long game journey.
Yeah, well, the thing was trying to like become so strong here to the point where I'm able to move to take things over to another country real easy. But because I personally feel like there's still a lot more that I need to do. And I feel like there's a lot more that I can achieve and try to grow from. But at the same time, I'm not trying to. I have to be realistic with certain things that are happening. Like, for example, of course, I would love to go to Paris. I would love to go to Europe. But overheads and stuff like that is expensive. Because what I learned from Australia, one suitcase is not enough. If I also go over to Europe, I'm looking at 6 suitcases minimum. So on top of that, and I'll probably be looking maybe 10 suitcases in overall to go over to Europe. That's being realistic with everything I need, from accessories, the garments. I only need maybe half a bag, and then the rest is all for the show.
Man, it was like I said, we were gonna connect, man. Like, just hearing that, like, we're gonna have a connect because we got a DHL connection over in Mangere. So no, but that's why that's why I'd ask, because it's like when you put it out there, like, even though your journey's not really a sprint, it's the long run. But like, you know, hearing things like that, it's like, man, because if you talk out loud about it, people are gonna hear this content, and then people are gonna want to be part of something that you're pushing.
Yeah,
because it's Pacific owned.
Yeah,
you know, and it might be like a sponsor, might be someone freights stuff in, or like does, like, you know, freight for work. But like, that's why I'm like, you gotta share your journey. You gotta share what you're doing, because if you don't share it, it's just in your head. But because, you know, not everyone has that same vision. You know.
Well, I think this is the one thing that I do to make sure that I don't like to. I don't want to go out constantly try to find stuff, because it can also affect your ego. Do you know what I mean? And I'm scared to be that one person where, don't get me wrong, I've made it so successfully, but then I'm like, you know, like big head, and I'm just like, no one will like me, and I'm like, and the one person where I don't want, the one person that I feel like should look at me in a different way is my niece, because she's just the only little girl on my side. So the moment she goes, "Oh, you're changed," then I know I'm like I effed up, because I'm in my head I'm like, oh, I'm this glamorous person, but I'm like, because there's a lot of designers who are like that. I'm like, gee, you're still sewing in your garage. Why in the world do you think you've made it? Made it as when you're like successful, like you're stable enough to the point where you'll literally become a pillar of the fashion industry. And here it's not that big; it's small compared to the other world. So if I can conquer that and be literally the fashion industry, then
But doesn't ego always manifest when the way that they project themselves to everybody else?
yeah,
Like I see, if you're conscious of that, and probably you're not
Mm.
ego person, it won't even come out. Or you might think you might be exposed to it, and for some way somehow show that
Mm.
part that you've always said you don't want to be.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because it just takes that one moment in your life that everything can switch.
Yep.
Do you know
Slipping,
what I mean?
you get caught slipping. Because I hear about it a lot. Like when people build something together,
Mm.
and then one gets all the bullets to the point where I was like,
Yeah.
what, I changed it? Because you forgot who you went in,
Yeah.
all in with. Eh?
Yeah.
And that's where it comes like,
Mm.
oh, it's my brand. It's the my instead of, oh, it's ours.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, you know?
And it's funny because my team was saying, "Oh, you did really well," and I go, "We did really well." I would not get where I am right now if I didn't have my team, and I love my team. Social, they work for me tiresome, and I always make sure that they're looked after and fed really well. And that comes out of my own pocket money, and I don't care because I know that I would get delivered. But the one thing I learned from one of my team members is that I'm good at looking after people. And I go, you have to if you want to be serious in any industry you want, because it's not being friendly to the point where like, oh, I'm gonna get what I want and then leave. It's like, now you have to think about the long run. That person that you helped give $5 in the beginning could end up being the person to switch everything because they're connected to someone that you don't know. So,
But I believe in that alignment too, cuz. I
Yeah.
believe in that alignment too, man. Like, and it's all about timing too.
Mm.
It's all about timing, man. And it's like, be good to those who help you along the way.
Yeah.
Remember those who help pave the way for you, and always acknowledge those who have helped you and walks beside you.
Yeah.
Hey, because push comes to shove, you want to look back and still see them there.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, many things like that. But I'm just like, rather be a happy person than.
You know, we've talked about all this, but we haven't even talked about how you started getting into the fashion thing. Like you did, we talked about you loving history and archaeology, but when the first time back then, when you always into like fashion in terms of clothes you get, and
So that's interesting because mom's a seamstress. She's professionally trained. She worked for Line 7. So when I was a kid, growing up, I remember mom bought a sewing machine because she wanted to get extra pocket money for us, so she would do work at home. And it was simple. It was just literally sewing labels onto hats, jackets. Nothing too tremendous, nothing too big. But when I was young, I loved sleeping with my mum. So I think from kindergarten right up to maybe, I think probably a 7 or 8 is when those are the times when I would get ready for bed and hop into bed, and my mum would be still sewing. So I would go to sleep to, and then when I wake up in the morning, I heard you. So till this day, if my mom's on a sewing machine and if I'm just lying down, I can't help but fall asleep. So that, but I don't know if that was probably the thing that sparked it. But even when I was at kindergarten, my mom would put out my clothes, and I go, oh, I don't want to wear that. And I was like, I'm gonna get a smack when she comes home from work, but it was worth it because I looked good. I didn't want to wear those jeans. I wanted to wear the white ones. So I'd go in the cupboard, take out, and I'm obviously not me realizing that I was making a mess. Just took it out, got my own clothes, and then it's alright. I got a smack, but I looked good at kindergarten. But then it wasn't till hit me till I was in primary when I saw Project Runway, the final, and I'm like resonated real strongly, and I was like, huh? So I sat down and because I remember I was lying down in the living room and I just got a piece of paper and just started drawing like garments. I'm like, oh, this will look cool. And then realized, I actually quite like this. And I think I was probably like maybe 10 or maybe a little bit older. And then it just was like, oh, I think I want to be a designer. And I held that on ever since then. I never let go of it. So that's where, but then at the same time, I'm like, not realizing, I think my mom was a huge weight, in terms of trying to like realize like, hey, a sewing machine. You was little, because even growing up as a kid, my sisters would go out shopping. I hated it. I'm like, I don't want to come here. This is stupid. I remember I got frustrated with my sister. I kicked the door when we got home. She goes, "You took me out. I came to this, and now look at it." And I'm like angry, and I got a growling from both of them because they're like, "You know that." I was like, "Get outside." I was like, "God." I wanted to go somewhere else, but then realizing now, I was like, there's so many stuff that my sisters have worn when I growing up were really interesting. Like remember my sister had this top. I thought it was really weird at the time, but I understand now. I'm like, oh, it's trendy now. It was like a normal top, but there was a zip there for the breastises area, and I was just like, why would you wanna? There's no point for having a zip there. But then looking at it now, I'm like, geez, actually, but I was like, oh, like, oh, my sister's not realizing was also implementing the whole fashion side and I was just, but me as a kid was like, nah, I'm not having it. I wanted to get McDonald's. They didn't even promise me that. But I don't know. Yeah, like I said, everything that's happened around me have all been influenced. And it didn't hit me till I watched Project Runway. I was like, holy crap, you can make clothes. You can, and it's a thing. So then I was like, maybe I should be a fashion designer.
So did that lead you to higher education, going into fashion design as a course? And
So I'm a high school dropout because I was a naughty kid, very naughty kid. But I said to my sister, I go, oh well, because you did certificate in visual arts, I'll do it because you did it. And I remember my family, they were upset with me because I wanted to drop out, and they were like, "You're gonna suffer." They trying to say everything underneath the moon to make me stay until seventh form, and I was like, "Nah, I'm not having it." Eh? My parents are both stubborn. That's where I get it from. So I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna do this." So and they're like, "Okay, then. Well, good luck. It's not gonna be easy." So I did that. And then I during that, because you do like multiple programs in one within a year. And the one that I really liked was jewelry techniques. So I went from there to doing jewelry techniques, and then I was understanding about body endowment, making jewelry, which was fun. It was a really interesting perspective because I'm like, oh, contemporary jewelry is way more fun than what we think jewelry is. And it's a whole nother creative realm that's really interesting. And then I used that as a stepping stone for me to try get into fashion school. So I got in, but I didn't last on the fashion side for that long because it was too competitive. The fashion side was remember the first day that when we sat there, young fresh kids, still learning about what life is, and the lecture goes, look to your left and look to your right. These are your competitions. Straight away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the first day. And then I was like, oh man. But I went in having a big ego because like, I know how to sew. And my mom is a seamstress. I knew how to. But it was the worst thing to do because then after that, I was like, nah, I was out of my league.
How did you come to that conclusion though? Because, sometimes... Because you said having the ego coming in because you know that so and that, and then but you're sitting down with people that are on the same level as you, aren't you?
Well, because
on the same level.
I was going thinking that I knew more than anybody else. Do you know what I mean?
But do you think what the tutor said, look to your left, look to your right, that was intimidating?
Yeah, of course.
But it was only just her words. Yeah. Just to prove a point that this is your competition. Yeah. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah. But in my head at that time, because I was like, oh no, I got this, and I was like, oh my gosh. But then I didn't want to waste my year, and I still loved fashion. But I was like, what else can I do? And I remember I met another friend at the same time, she was doing textiles. So I jumped into textiles, and I think textiles was the best thing that I ever moved, because fashion people do make clothes from first, second, and third year. Textiles was open. It was so open to I had a friend who was doing she turned fish skins into leather. I had another friend who's doing a theory. She was writing a theory about how the husk of a chestnut can be molded in together to make a fiber to make a fabric. And I was like, oh, like there was many. It was open to many things. I even had a friend. She made fabric, the old cassette tapes. So she was able to weave it together, and then she broke apart our Walkman, and you can just run on and you can hear music. But yeah. So it's like it was like just from
Just-
that,
just creative, eh?
yeah, it was really broad. And then I was like, I was in fashion, and but then I knew I still wanted to do clothing. So my stuff that I did was for my fashion I was being majoring in fashion textiles. So that was like fabric manipulation, even trying to see what I could do with plastics and stuff like that. But I graduated, I got my degree, and then once I got my degree, I worked in the industry for a couple of years for people. I worked for Nora Swan. She's like she's a huge pillar for Polynesian fashion. She's like the spokesperson for Polynesian fashion for on this side of the world. She's done a lot. So I worked for her for a bit. And then I left and I did some other things. I worked on some film sets and went on to the craft industry. And then that's when I decided to give it a go and be like, okay, I'm ready to put on my big boy pants and try run the label. And then I went from there.
Oh, shit. So, the film set stuff.
Yeah.
Was that making props and
Yeah,
or costume design and all that?
There was a few a lot of these filmmakers and writers, I don't know if all of them, but they will get funding to try for the film that they want to create. So they need to make a trailer. So I was being like sitting in and like helping make costumes for stuff like that. Like, it wasn't nothing too dramatic or like overly dramatic, but I was in like just literally helping out. Like, what do I need to stitch here? I'll stitch. And then help out with the photo shoot. I help out for filming, like in terms of like I make sure the garment is placed like this, looks like this, so stuff like that. So it was an interesting industry. It's because I was told that this was like probably like the bare minimum, but when you get into it, costume design is like on the bottom, because they feel like, oh, you're not that important. But I'm like laughing because I'm like, but clothing is like half of the movie, really. If you got nothing, it's just a naked person, then it just looks like an R18 movie.
Is it because you're designing for the period or whatever the movie's about, rather than creating your own?
Yeah,
It's got nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, because I think I was just giving anything and everything a go. Like even being part of the craft industry was interesting because it was just like you're still making, but some of these ladies were like doing like, I don't know, crochet stuff, and would like crochet their things really quickly. They're like machines.
A lot of people when they start their own business, they work for a few years just to make sure that they understand the craft and they start getting passionate about it, and then they say, okay, I'm going to start my own business on this very thing I'm going to do. So for you, like doing all this work experience stuff, like when did that come in your head? Like, man, or was it from the start, or was it any time during your working years where you thought to yourself, I might actually start my own business?
Nah, I've always had the drive to have my own label, but I wasn't mentally ready. And then there was always people out there waiting. They're like, "Oh, come on, man! Like, what are you gonna produce? When are you gonna?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this," but I really never did anything. But I would say everyone needs to do something. They have to do everything that's different to understand, to encourage their perspective of what they want to do for business. Because I even decided to study business, and then I think I was in the middle of the year, and I say to myself, I'm hearing what you are saying, but I just feel like it's not applying. And then I came to realize that business, you can learn it, you can go and study it, you can get a degree in it, but unless you actually do it, it's a different story.
Different, yeah, man.
Yeah, it's way different. Because what they teach you, it does helpful, but it doesn't work like that. What they teach you is not ABCD. It's more like 5Q, take away, then find the X, and then maybe you can try look another day, and then come back, and then time machine, and then math equation, and then A, B, C. But that's just how business works.
Because you hear plenty of stories of people successful in business but haven't done a business course. Oh, you've heard
Yeah, well,
a lot of people.
there is no wrong or right way for business. There isn't. I guess this is always, like I said, it's always going to come down to your mentality of things.
Because I've learned now, like, it depends on how good you are at that specific thing. Like, if you're a wanted man for, a wanted person for what you do, because you're really good at what you're doing, like anybody, like, if you work for someone, your company is lucky to have you, because, you're doing it for the company. But you've got that power now to go on your own, or,
Trying, and we'll do it.
Proud, cuz. That's all I can say, man. Oh, that's what I've always wanted you to know, bro. Just like, proud of you, man.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm just more or less just happy that I think one of the main goals was to try have a fashion show and just have mum sit there and view it. And yeah. But I once I achieved that, I was like, yeah, no, I'm pretty happy now. Now it's like, no, just trying to go for gold, trying to go for bigger and better things. Yeah, my family's seen it. My nephews know what I do, and they know if they want to achieve something, it's not easy. But at the same time, it's like, you can be anything you want to be.
So you know how you talked about the different levels of fashion, like from bottom to the top. So your company does stuff for the shows, which are the top level kind of stuff. But then, is it a whole what you produce clothing for the whole the different level of fashion?
So I think I sit on the high end side. So, but the thing that I do, I make one-offs. So that nobody else will have that same outfit or the same jacket. It'll be like a similar design, a different color, but it won't be exactly the same style. But my goal is to try do it per, like, actually be a fashion house brand where we do season. And the one thing I take pride in is that each fashion show or each thing that I've done, I don't reuse my fashion. So each show is always something new, something different. Because there's nothing wrong. It's come from a money perspective. You just reuse the garments that you didn't sell, and you showcase again, and then maybe add maybe one or two new pieces.
Is it common though?
It's very common.
Yeah.
Not me. New show, new collection. New show, new collection. It's a pay, but I take pride in it because you know that each time. Because I think one of the most common, the thing that I loved. Somebody said, it goes, we don't know what to expect from on clothing, and that's from an industry person. And I was like, yeah, that's the point. Because I like, the next goal is to try to achieve something way different where people are like, oh, man, this guy is coming with the left jab. Didn't realize he was coming that strong. But that's what I want to do. That's the fun thing about being a creative, is that I'm able to do anything and everything, but at the same time within my own reins, not trying to reach too far.
Where did you get the name from?
So my brand was originally called JFT, and then my friend was like, oh, so like there's a label in the UK called JFT, and she goes, have you got funding to sort out a law case if something happens? And I go, nah, man. So then I had contacts with some people in marketing, and please help me figure out this name situation. So we sat down, and then we figured out, I don't know, this entire list. And then someone was like, why did you call it Tanuvasa? And I was like, you're not. No. And then I went from there to, my favorite one was When you just call it John. And I go, John's so fucking lame. And my friends all laughed. They're like, what is your name? I'm like, I don't give a fuck, just lame ass. And then I go, why don't we just take away the J? And it's like, oh.
True.
But the thing that I love is that it's up to anyone. Because I had some artists go, OHN. Like, that's how they pronounce my label. Some people call it on. Or some people say OHN. Like, it's up to you. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. You know. And then it just became that. It just became on. So everyone's like, oh yeah, on. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, but on, and then bye.
I always found interesting the whole celebrity fashion kind of thing, because it's like, especially the red carpet when they all show what they're wearing and all that. Because these celebrities in America, they only wear it once, and that's it.
Yeah.
And any photo, take if they're in the photo, they can't be seen in that same.
Well, they usually have a stylist, so those are the people that you want to connect with,
right?
In the industry, because, for example, let's say you're the stylist of, let's say Nicki Minaj, someone who's really popular, and I get I get in contact with you and give you some outfits. You are more likely to put the outfit on Nicki Minaj because you dress her. Do you know what I mean? And then she wears it, and then I'm like, oh my god, she's wearing this designer, blah blah. Do you know what I mean? But it's the stylists, the people who dress. Not all celebrities have stylists. Most of them do, but that's the one that you want to try to get in contact with. But a really good designer, a really good stylist always taps into the archives of an old fashion house, or find a new upcoming fashion designer who's like no one's never heard of. I mean, yeah.
I remember the famous one was Jennifer Lopez green dress.
Oh, the Versace one.
The Versace one, the V. Yeah. Like that was, man, when that first came out, man, it came out on the news footage and it blew up,
Yeah, everyone was talking about it.
She was like famous for that dress.
But she actually, because I don't know when, I think a couple of years back, they told her to come back, Versace told her to come back again, or Donatella told her to come back and walk the end to close the fashion show, but with that same style dress, but in a different style, but similar to that plunging neckline. Yeah. But I just was like, wow, such a 360 turn. The thing that, because she said herself, she that literally put her on the map. Everyone just knew her as she's that pretty girl, and then like, she's like on P Diddy's arm, and then now she's like, oh no, it's like J-Lo, just from that one dress. But it just shows the power of fashion, though. What we put something pretty memorable on someone, and then off they go.
We've got that one Kiwi woman name that's made it over in Europe for fashion. She went to Henderson High ages ago.
Karen? No. Kitty Nathan?
I don't know. There's one famous New Zealander that's overseas for fashion. Fashion gears.
I don't even know. I didn't pay attention to fashion that much here. Well, good luck to her.
Yeah.
If any of her sponsors want to sponsor me, by all means, please.
You know what? The only reason why I remember, because she said it's in Henderson High, like back when Michael Jones was there. So it was those days, those old days. Cool, man.
Yay.
So what's happening in the next few weeks? So we've got plans for this whole year.
So my year's planned out. So the goal is to produce my own fashion show. So that's the goal. But I say to my team, we're only doing one show this year. And they say to me, why one? Why? Oh, my team goes, why one? And I go, because it's one, to do it properly, not rush, so we can understand. And the goal is to have their own show, produce their own show, and then next year we produce 2 shows, the following year 3 shows, then the following year 4 shows. And then so we can, I don't know, just to be better, and then go from there, really. But if I can ace to figure out how to have my own show, then yeah. Then I don't know where from there.
I look forward to connecting Waitangi Day, because I reckon
when that's Waitangi Day?
The 6th of Feb.
I'm like, do I have anything? Oh no, it should be fine.
This sounds like.
Yeah, man. Yay!
Thanks, John, for coming on, man.
No worries, thank you.
Hope you had a good time.
My legs are getting sore.
Shockers.
Sure.